Me hubiera peinado hoy. Me acabo de ver ahorita. Bueno, no peinado, pero me hubiera puesto una gorra. Así de fácil. ¿Cómo están? Muy buenos días a todos ustedes. Bienvenidos a esta edición del Casino del Tío Salo. Ya saben que antes tenemos una edición mini de Nadie Me Preguntó, que en realidad tengo que ver esto, tengo que ver cómo mierdas hago esto. O sea, nadie me preguntó, sé que lo puede editar, etcétera, bla, bla, bla. Da igual. Espero que estén teniendo una excelente mañana. Feliz viernes. Llegamos a fin de semana, damas y caballeros, y estamos listos a darle con absolutamente todo. El tema de este video es sencillo para todos ustedes. Se trata del nuevo orden financiero mundial. Cuando el sistema financiero cambia, hay muchos ajustes alrededor de la bolsa, alrededor de la economía, alrededor de todo. Simplemente tienes que pensarlo, ¿no? Si cambian la manera en la que el dinero funciona en la base del dinero, tiene que haber cosas. Cuando cambias un sitio web de una plataforma a otra o haces una actualización, ¿no? De cómo se ve hoy a cómo se va a ver mañana y estás pasando todos los datos de un lado a otro, adivina qué, vas a tener pedos, güey. Y es lo mismo que está ocurriendo en este momento. Ahora, para darles el tema rapidísimo, qué es lo que está ocurriendo, el nuevo orden financiero ha llegado oficialmente, ya lo anunciaron, ya están diciendo cómo va a funcionar y está cambiando la manera en la que nuestro dinero funciona en base. Y esto ha pasado varias veces en el pasado, pasó en 1900, en los 70s, 80s, cuando el oro se desprendió del dólar. También fue cuando Saudi Arabia empezó a comprar y solamente se dedicó a denominar su petróleo en dólares. También cambió cuando en Japón, por ejemplo, Japón decidió comprar toda su propia deuda e imprimir más dinero para continuar haciéndolo. También cambió en el 2008, 2009, 2010, cuando Estados Unidos fue a centrarse más en lo que es QE1, QE2, QE3, y también cambió temprano en los tempranos 2000 en Estados Unidos, cuando en Estados Unidos decidimos que íbamos a dejar nosotros de ser productores y que íbamos a literalmente importar todo, que nosotros íbamos solamente a crear tecnología, y eso fue lo que nos llevó a la del 2008 y a la nueva. Entonces, ¿qué ocurre cuando tienes un nuevo orden financiero mundial? Y pueden ver que todas estas fechas tal vez las pueden reconocer porque ha habido un tremendo ajuste de bolsa y también recesiones, ¿no? En todas ellas. Y es justamente a donde quiero llegar, es justamente a donde vamos. No les vengo a decir acá que va a haber una recesión gigante, que va a haber un gran ajuste de bolsa, simplemente a contarles que el nuevo orden financiero está cambiando, está aquí oficialmente. Ya lo anunciaron, ya no es una teoría solamente de conspiración del loco, del pendejo, de tu tío Salo. Esto ya es... Bueno, y ahora, el problema grande de lo que tengo acá y lo que me motiva a nunca hacer más videos es, platico de cosas en el pasado que están siendo anunciadas en tiempo real, ¿no? Es como salen y dicen, güey, voy a empezar a vender aceitunas. Y yo salgo y digo, güey, este güey acaba de decir que están vendiendo aceitunas. Y todo el mundo, estás loco, güey, eres un conspiranoico. Yo sigo comprando pizzas nada más. Ok, pero ese güey está vendiendo aceitunas, pinche loco de mierda. Que está perfecto que me diga pinche loco de mierda. Tiene toda la razón. Mi mujer me dice así diario, entonces no es tan mal. Pero qué hueva tener que esperar 4 meses, 5 meses. El último video que hice de esto fue exactamente hace 4, casi 5 meses. Y si lo quieren ver, váyanlo a ver en este canal, básicamente en YouTube. Pueden encontrarlo donde les explico exactamente cómo va todo, cómo funciona todo, cómo va a funcionar, etcétera. Y pasan todos esos 5 meses con cualquier cosa que digo. Ahí viene el pendejo que no sabe, el nuevo orden internacional, bla, bla, bla. Y ahora que lo anuncian, me empiezan a taguear todos como si fuera algo milagroso y me dicen, verga, güey, ¿cómo supiste? No estoy leyendo el futuro. Una vez más, me encantaría poder leer el futuro, no mames. Y también ver a través de las playeras, ¿no? Para poder ver tetas todo el día. Pero tristemente no puedo hacer ninguna de las dos. Lo único que puedo hacer es poner atención al presente, y aquí es donde todo el mundo está perdido en lo que está pensando. Ahora, antes de empezar con la explicación rapidísima de por qué esto es tan importante, quiero decirles lo siguiente, algo que encontré hermosamente chistoso, y lo saben. En este canal no vemos las noticias para informarnos, vemos los encabezados y cómo la gente los está tomando para poder entender qué es lo que están intentando hacer pensar a la gente. Porque de eso se tratan las noticias, crear comportamiento en la gente, ¿ok? Una de las cosas más chistosas que he visto en años, y esto Es que esto es el momento, una vez más. En el 2022 me encantaría que tuvieran para los que la tengan, lo voy a disfrutar muchísimo y creo que ustedes lo van a disfrutar muchísimo. Para los que no tengan este tipo de memoria, espero que la puedan empezar a desarrollar. En el 2022, por ahí de febrero, marzo, íbamos a tener la Junta de la Reserva Federal. Después del 2021, la Reserva Federal en noviembre, en su última junta, salió y dijo, ¿saben qué? Vamos a subir intereses el próximo año, empezando en marzo. Nadie les creyó, incluyéndome a mí mismo. ¿Cómo van a subirlo? No sé si se acuerdan de esto. ¿Cómo van a subir los intereses y tener que pagar todos esos intereses con su deuda? No son tontos, no se van a hacer eso. ¿Lo hicieron sí o no? Sí, sí lo hicieron. Y por eso el mercado de cripto tocó tope en noviembre, porque el mercado de cripto vio para adelante, o mínimo eso es como se comportó. Viendo para adelante, dijo, güey, si vas a subir tipos, vas a cortar liquidez y eso literalmente me tiene que poner el pie. Entonces, literalmente fue lo que pasó, ¿no? Y también la bolsa acompañó, tuvimos ese gran mercado bajista en el 2022. En este momento lo que me está haciendo cagar de risa es, anunciaron, creo que fue ayer, que sacaron el CPI, ¿no? El CPI de Estados Unidos, es el índice de inflación. Y estaban esperando 3% y llegó en 2.7, ¿no? Y core y la subyacente, las dos llegaron muy abajo de lo que estaban pensando. Y todos, todos los pacos, porque recuerda, a todo paco le han contado eh, que la inflación va a continuar subiendo, que esta inflación continúa subiendo, que no hay cómo escaparla y que van a pagar más. Esto me encanta. Literalmente adultos, economistas, gente que se encarga de ver la economía, no puede voltear a ver un descuento, todos los descuentos que existen en todos lados. Cuando hay un mundo de inflación, no existen descuentos. ¿Ok? Es lo primero que te tienes que dar cuenta. Si eres un adulto que tiene la mitad del cerebro prendido, te puedes dar cuenta, los precios están subiendo. ¿Pero cómo? Si todo está descontado. ¿Ok? Es así de fácil. No sé qué les digan en la escuela y qué clase de estudios tengan que hacer y tal vez tengan que hacer una prueba anal para que puedan pasar ello y después que les metan el pito en la boca y por el culo al mismo tiempo para que todo esto pueda calibrarse de acuerdo a entender la economía. Pero es así de fácil. Si me dices que hay inflación y veo descuentos en todos lados, probablemente no hay inflación. Si me dices que no va a haber inflación y estoy viendo que una clase G de Mercedes se fue de $180,000 a $400,000, que nadie puede encontrar muebles, que todos los muebles cuestan el doble para sus casas nuevas, que a nadie le alcanza para una casa nueva y las casas subieron de precio, diré, eso es inflación. Pero no, no, no. Aquí han convencido a todos de lo contrario en el 2022. Cuando a toda la gente le dijeron, güey, la inflación está aquí. Yo entendí lo de la inflación, pero que iban a subir tipos se me hace imposible. ¿Por qué van a subir tipos si van a tener que pagar más ¿cómo se llama? Por intereses. Y literalmente estamos en lo mismo, pero al revés. Ayer salen con estos números de la inflación que son bajos y todo Paco que ha sido entrenado a decir que viene la inflación, porque eso va en contra de su reputación, aunque no se tienen que preocupar para nada. Si simplemente vas y repites las noticias, esto se los digo a quien quiera empezar un canal de YouTube, lo único que tienes que hacer es leer las noticias para tener cientos de miles de visitas y que tus títulos sean favorablemente alcistas, como no puedes creer cuánto va a subir esto. Con eso vas a tener más vistas que nadie en el planeta. Y no te preocupes en equivocarte. No importa, siempre y cuando seas alcista todo el tiempo en tu canal, todas las vistas van para ti porque ha sido entrenada la gran cantidad de la gente a simplemente ser el que juega la lotería todos los fines de semana esperando a ganarla. Entonces, de eso se trata ser un buen youtuber en el mundo de finanzas y también, accidental o no accidentalmente, también se trata de ser una persona, por lo que veo, en el mundo, que es que te digan, literalmente esto está ocurriendo cuando ves que lo contrario está pasando en el mundo. Que te digan, güey, estamos en un periodo de calentamiento global y que estemos todos en un iglú, a la verga. Así de fácil funciona este pedo. Y ahora, regresando a esto, estas personas que han sido convencidas o que simplemente leen las noticias sin entenderlas, han sido convencidas de que la inflación viene. Entonces, viene este número de inflación, ¿no? El CPI, en 2.7 bajo el 3%. todo el mundo, ahora todos estos güeyes salen a decir, ¿puedes creer los números de la Reserva Federal? Son todos falsos. Están diciendo que la inflación va para abajo. Están mintiendo. ¿Qué? ¿Qué? Perdón. ¿Qué? ¿Qué? La inflación va para arriba. Esto es mentira de la red. Estamos una vez más. Nadie aprende nada. Nadie. Es una verdadera locura. Entonces ya todos tus pacos favoritos están diciendo que no hay forma alguna de que el CPI sea real. Ahora, el CPI nunca ha sido real. Tienes que ser un imbécil para estar viendo los datos de gobierno que literalmente te hayan enseñado en la escuela. La economía es el estudio de cómo la gente se comporta con su dinero. Perfecto. Entonces voy a hablar de economía simplemente con datos que me dé alguien más. No de cómo la gente se comporta con él. No. Voy a dar los datos que alguien más me dio. Es el principio básico de cómo estudiar economía y el principio básico de cómo equivocarte en todo lo que tienes que hacer. ¿No? Entonces, el CPI es falso. A mí me da igual lo que diga el CPI, pero ahora empiezan a hacer lo mismo que hicieron en el 2022. Ese es el patrón que quiero que reconozcas. Donde en el 2022, literalmente fue de, no, en serio, esto de la inflación viene, güey, vamos a subir tipos. Y ahorita viene lo de la deflación, cuando le están contando a todo el mundo que viene más inflación, y te están dando las pistas reales, como lo hicieron en el 2022. No, la inflación sí viene para abajo. Y ahí es donde ya todo el mundo se separa y dice, esta reserva, ¿cómo mienten en todos sus datos? Espectacular. Si estás viendo un Paco hacer esto en tiempo real, güey, diviértete muchísimo. Y ahora, para todos los demás que para acabar esto de el nuevo sistema de financiero, el nuevo orden financiero mundial, tenemos que entender lo siguiente. Una vez más, estamos cambiando cosas básicas. Cuando cambias sistemas fundamentales en el mundo financiero, hemos visto grandes recesiones y grandes correcciones de la bolsa. No hay más. Y ahora, sobre todo en dónde está parado Estados Unidos, esto es algo que tienen que entender todos ustedes, por el amor de Dios. Esto una vez más, estoy hablando de Estados Unidos. Si me dices, en México no está pasando, no tengo ni puta idea. ¿Ok? No tengo ni idea. Pero en Estados Unidos sí. En Estados Unidos, lo que estamos haciendo es, tal cual como le dijimos a todo el mundo, ¿no? Güey, la inflación va para arriba, en lo que hay descuentos en todos lados. A todo el mundo le estamos diciendo que el dólar va para abajo, en lo que estamos viendo que el dólar compra más. ¿Ok? Aquí hay una disparidad de la narrativa. La narrativa te quiere llevar a que tengas una idea de que el dólar va a colapsar. ¿Ok? Pero milagrosamente, todas las demás monedas, como el yen, el euro, la libra, el peso, todo lo que está amarrado al dólar. Imagínate lo que sería los altcoins si ustedes son cripteros, ¿no? Si son cripteros, imagínate lo que sería, lo que le pasaría a las altcoins si Bitcoin se va a cero o Bitcoin va a $5,000. Y esta fotografía la han visto 1000 veces. 8 de la mañana la fotografía que han visto 1000 veces. Putin pone el pito sobre la mesa. Díganme que no han visto esa fotografía. Donde ves Bitcoin caer, ¿qué pasa con los altcoins? Bajadas de 99%. Pero por alguna razón que me es muy difícil de entender, honestamente, muy cabrón, porque no puedo llegar a ese nivel de razonamiento. La gente cree que si el dólar se va a la verga, México va a estar de poca madre, Canadá va a estar encima del mundo, Europa va a estar poniéndola con todo con una empresa que hace dinero. Es la estupidez más grande del planeta. La segunda, te pueden decir que el dólar se va a cero, pero ¿por qué el dólar me compra muchas más cosas hoy que hace un año? Y una vez más, así es como empieza. Esto es para que aprendas cómo la tendencia empieza del otro lado. Y la tercera cosa que tengo que decirles es, cuando empiezas a ver que los precios están bajando, si sigues midiendo como antes, nunca vas a entender en qué nivel estás tan jodido hasta que el precio regrese a la media donde empezaste. ¿Qué quiere decir esto? Que si aquí es donde empezó el precio de todas las cosas, digamos que todas las cosas que se pueden vender son un Mercedes, ¿no? De $100,000. Aquí empieza. Esto es 2019. 2024, sí, el tope del 2020, bueno, de 23 en realidad fue el tope de inflación. 2023, este coche de $100,000 ahora vale $500,000. ¿Ok? Entonces, esto es lo único que se vende. Ha subido la inflación. Pero cuando empieza a bajar, recuerda, aquí arriba, donde el coche costaba $500,000, la misma cantidad de gente que lo compró acá. ¿Ok? Por el $500,000, porque el dinero se devaluó. Y ahora, toda la gente que compró el coche acá, para solamente regresar a la media que tú consideras, tiene que perder 5 veces su dinero. Y ahí es donde tú, el que le están hablando de noticias, dice, ¡ah! Los precios acaban de regresar a la normalidad. Cuando todo el mundo perdió 5 veces su dinero. Por eso están midiendo todo mal cuando le están midiendo todo tradicionalmente. Ahora, nuevo sistema financiero mundial, para que lo entiendan y por qué está mal hecho todo. El dólar va a romper madres, ¿ok? A romper madres a la alza. Y sé que no lo creen. Y lo que más me caga de esto es que es obvio. Tengo que ser el primero en decirlo porque soy el primero en notarlo. Es obvio lo que está ocurriendo. Me tengo que esperar a que pase. Y cuando pase, lo ideal es que les diga, no sé, no les puedo decir, les dije, porque eso es cagante. No hay nada más cagante que el güey, te dije, me da igual. Pero lo que sí me revienta los huevos es que tengo que hablar de lo mismo 2, 3, 4, 5 veces en un periodo de 6 meses. Que la opinión empieza, eres un pendejo, y acaba en eres un pendejo el día que ocurre y sale el lanzamiento. Ok, y todo continúa. Nadie aprende nada. Yo me estoy repitiendo como pendejo y seguimos en el mismo patrón. Es lo único que me revienta los huevos. Vamos acá. Les estoy diciendo esto. Todas las noticias que son criptopositivas no son para tu Bitcoin, no son para tu Ethereum, no son para tu Solana o cualquier cadena que ames. Son buenas noticias para el dólar. La digitalización de todo a través de blockchain para que sea perfectamente rastreable y confiscable está aquí. ¿Ok? Eso es lo que estamos haciendo. Estamos creando un super sistema para poder rastrear todo económicamente hablando, de nuestro dinero a nuestras cosas. Por eso estamos digitalizando todo. Nos la metieron ya todos somos unos imbéciles, tenemos que admitirlo, decirlo y entenderlo. Que güey, es que Bitcoin es lo mejor que existe. Sí, algo que es completamente rastreable. Somos imbéciles, ya caímos perfecto. En lo que cripto baja de precio, te están diciendo y te están anunciando que todo esto es alcista para cripto. Te ponen cripto esto, cripto el otro. Estados Unidos va a ser el número 1 en cripto. No es lo que literalmente está haciendo. Pero esto literalmente solo beneficia tremendamente y efectivamente al dólar y borra el problema de deuda que tiene el dólar. Porque ahora, con monedas estables, y esto es lo que les dije, iba a ser nadie me preguntó, pero literalmente es lo que había dicho en varios videos hace rato, bla, bla, bla. Y aquí abajo de este post les dejé el video del nuevo sistema financiero explicado. Ahí estaba, ya lo teníamos. Y ahí les va esto. Coinbase el día de ayer anunció, es que también hablé de Coinbase, pero fue como una coincidencia, les había dicho que Coinbase va a ser donde voy a invertir, etcétera, que Coinbase va a poder hacer monedas estables para cualquier negocio. Esto yo ni siquiera lo tenía en mente. Yo creí que solamente lo iban a hacer para, ¿cómo se llama? Para empresas gigantes. El hecho de que van a hacer todo esto lo más rápido posible para poder ponerlo en tu Shopify y todo eso, todavía va a hacer esto más explosivo. ¿Ok? Todos tus Web3, DEXs, dApps, etcétera, van a ser a través de su plataforma. Literalmente la entrada al Internet. Imagínate que la entrada al Internet ahorita solamente te la dé Elon Musk. Es lo que estás haciendo al sistema financiero con Coinbase. Todo lo que todos ustedes piensan y me han dicho que es Ripple, XRP, Coinbase lo es. Van a también apoyar a todos los bancos con monedas estables a través de Circle para usar su blockchain para transferencias. El dinero, el nuevo sistema SWIFT es Coinbase a través de su cadena Base, que está basada en Ethereum y que pueden desprender y hacerla independiente cuando quieran. ¿Ok? Entonces, Coinbase va a ser la infraestructura de pagos globales. ¿Sigues creyendo que Bitcoin o que XRP va a pagar más? Les voy a decir esto, y solamente para acabar este tema. Voy a invertir en este ciclo que viene en cripto, por supuesto, pero no lo voy a hacer como ustedes lo van a hacer. Bitcoin, el retorno de Bitcoin ya es una mierda. ¿Ok? Ya lo peor que le puede pasar ahorita a Bitcoin es que simplemente baje a 50 o 60 mil dólares. Porque literalmente está rangueando en un 2X, en una posibilidad de hacer un 2X. El último ciclo llegó a un tope de 69, ¿no? Y eso de tope a tope hizo menos de un 2X, porque 70 y 70 son 140. menos 2, que son los 69 y 69, 138,000. No llegamos ahí. Rivian. Acabo de vender mi Rivian ayer, 19.90. ¿Saben cuánto le saqué a Rivian? 82%. ¿Saben cuánto hizo Coinbase? Digo, Bitcoin del fondo de abril acá, que fue lo mismo que yo compré Rivian, 66%. Vendí mi Tesla de abril para acá hace meses e hice 114%. El retorno de Bitcoin ya no es atractivo para nada. Nada más que la gente sigue hablándolo porque se quieren sacar la lotería y luego te dicen las otras cosas. Es que es inconfiscable, bla, bla, bla. Son pendejadas, da igual. La otra cosa es, ¿qué es lo que más va a hacer dinero? Donde pase todo el dinero por encima de, y eso es Coinbase. Voy a invertir 50% de mi portafolio. Esto está puesto en mi X. Vengan a verlo. Déjenme, le hago el plug una vez más a mi cuenta de X para que nadie la venga a seguir y que nadie la vea. Porque, de nuevo, no soy alcista todo el tiempo, lo siento. Entonces no vale la pena leerlo. Pero aquí les tengo. Fácil. Próximo ciclo, así voy a invertir. 50% lo voy a meter en Coinbase del 100% que tenga para alocar a cripto. 35% lo voy a meter en Circle y solamente voy a comprar con 15% de mi dinero spot e Ethereum. No Coinbase, no nada más. Nada más. No me interesa nada más. Y ahí ustedes pueden hacer y armar su portafolio como sea. Les estoy diciendo esto para que tomen un screenshot y se rían de mí en 3, 4 años cuando Bitcoin haga solamente el doble. Tal cual. Así de fácil. El nuevo sistema financiero está aquí. Es a través de Coinbase, es a través de blockchain, es a través de esto para que nos puedan monitorear y también confiscar el dinero y también interoperar el dinero como ellos quieran. Si no has entendido eso, Coinbase va a hacer que todo el mundo digitalice sus dólares. Ya dijeron y anunciaron que JP Morgan Chase, que tienen más de 3 trillones de dólares líquidos en depósitos de gringos, no de todos nosotros, van a transicionar todo su dinero a la blockchain de Coinbase y eso quiere decir que 3 trillones de dólares instantáneamente compran bonos. Y si no entiendes cómo funciona la deuda, lo he intentado explicar 1000 veces y no, claramente no soy bueno. Entonces busca algún güey que haya ido a la escuela que pueda explicarte deuda, cómo funciona. Es súper fácil, pero no lo puedo explicar por alguna razón porque nadie lo entiende. Y según yo era el que lo explicaba de la manera más fácil, pero no puedo. Entonces, este es el nuevo sistema financiero. Así que disfrútalo. Y ahora, antes de todo, de ir al casino el tío Salo, les voy a decir esto. Lo que sigue ahora con la recuperación de esta recesión, normalmente habría nuevos trabajos y todo eso. Esto ya no va a existir acá. Por eso, para mí, invertir se ha vuelto una de las cosas más importantes para crear más dinero. Es la manera más fácil, no tengo que estresarme, pongo mi dinero en la bolsa, sé que empresas van a absorber más empresas y con eso me quedo tranquilo haciendo un chingo de dinero todo el tiempo. No sabes cómo invertir, no tienes que aprender a leer tablas, pero para mí lo que me ha ayudado muchísimo es trading, por ejemplo. ¿Ok? Porque puedo ver todo, como me apalanco y uso un chingo mi margen de error es muy chico, aprendo a ver todo el mercado como si fuera en cámara lenta. Y eso yo creo que ayuda a muchísima gente que está haciendo trading a poder invertir a largo plazo, bueno, mediano plazo más bien, no vas a invertir ya a largo plazo en el 2030. Y es lo que está ocurriendo. Va a haber un ajuste, les tengo que decir esto. La bolsa en este momento es donde los gringos están más invertidos en toda la historia. En el 2008 era bienes raíces. Ahora están todos metidos en la bolsa. Cuando la bolsa caiga esta vez, la bolsa, Bitcoin ya va para adelante, pero cuando la bolsa caiga, ajuste como tiene que. No, porque de nuevo, es un nuevo sistema financiero, tiene que ocurrir. Está pasando enfrente de los ojos de todos. Ray Dalio lo está vendiendo. Viene una crisis en todo el mundo. Soy Ray Dalio. Ahí está, créanle a Ray Dalio, porque tiene razón en lo que está diciendo, pero no les está explicando cómo viene, y es por esto y por las compras de oro que tampoco nadie entiende. A la verga, ¿para qué es? Todo el mundo cree que es para protegerse de la devaluación del dólar. Lo que va a pasar es, el mercado se va a ir a la verga, y como todo el dinero de todos los gringos está amarrado ahí, va a haber deflación estilo 2008 una vez más. Pero esta vez la bolsa tiene que caer más porque subió más. Una vez más, cuando tienes 5x de inflación, empiezas acá, pero estás empezando a medir por acá, estás perdido. Ya cuando empieces a medir que llegó a tu punto, estás en mega negativo. Y es todo lo que les voy a decir. Yo estoy preparado para ese caso, estoy esperando en cash. Mi cash compra más todos los días y todo se vuelve más barato, y eso es lo que me ha dado para mí personalmente la razón, en vez de voltear a ver un Paco favorito que no cree que los números del CPI, aunque hayan descuentos en todos lados, son reales. Así que vámonos al casino del tío Salo. Vamos a empezar a ver cómo van nuestros Bitcoins, cómo van nuestros Ethereum, vamos a ver cómo va la bolsa en general. Movimientos muy interesantes, y aparte hoy es viernes, hay expiraciones. Creo que es el último viernes de expiraciones del año, así que cáiganle, damas y caballeros. Aquí tienen para todos ustedes, les voy a compartir ¿cómo se llama? El Discord de Elite Trading Academy. Por cierto, acá les dejé exactamente que aquí hay algo con Nvidia, ¿eh? Vayan a checarlo, eso es aparte. Vendí mi posición de Rivian por $19.90, 82% de ganancia desde abril. Estoy agregando cash a mi arsenal, continúo. Este año, solamente desde abril hasta acá, mi promedio, recuerda, le metí la mayor cantidad de dinero a Tesla. La segunda cantidad que metí fuerte fue Rivian, y ahorita apenas estoy empezando mi DCA ¿cómo se llama? A Lucid, que va en otro tipo de... Entonces tengo todo cash y acabo de sacar esto cash. Para mí la posición más fuerte que tenía era Tesla, porque era la que más ocupó, pero también Rivian era la segunda, así que ya estoy casi una vez más todo en cash, listo para esto. Quieren los análisis del buen Alex, que les pasa todo el tiempo acá. Vean lo que tienen que estar viendo en Bitcoin. Acá lo tienen. Güey, no hablo inglés. Lo puedes hacer con lo puedes traducir a español. Simplemente copias el texto y lo pegas. También tenemos los textos del buen Farhan, y pueden ver acá que la volatilidad en la de 2 semanas está a punto de expandir, y eso nos llevaría a 66 a 69 mil dólares en Bitcoin. Para toda la gente que quiera participar con nosotros en las diferentes cosas que hacemos, y si tradeas futuros, cáele para empezar a nuestro concurso con Blofin. Tenemos un price pool de hasta 50 mil dólares, solamente han unlockeado 4 mil haciendo trade acá. Cáiganle, bastante fácil de llevarte una lana en esto. Y de nuevo, es solamente si estás tradeando y ya sabes tradear y todo, vente, cáele acá. Lo único que tienes que hacer es tradear, nada diferente, no te cuesta nada, para poder ganar hasta 50 mil dólares si se abre ese premio. Por ahora tenemos 4 mil, tenemos solamente 74 millones de dólares en volumen tradeado. Honestamente es muy poco. Así que faltan 9 días y 19 horas para cerrar esto. Casi fin de año, así que apúrate de una vez para ganar una lana. Y si eres un degenerado como nosotros y quieres invertir en estos exchanges de futuros, cáele a nuestro sitio web. Tenemos aquí en Tutos, rapidísimo, un video que te enseña cómo tradear en Bitunix. También tenemos Blofin. El de Bitunix es el video más completo, por cierto. Le vas a picar acá y ahí vas a tener un video de 11 minutos que te enseña cómo fondear la cuenta, cómo mandar dinero a ella, dónde encontrar tu cartera, cómo mandar a futuros, cómo abrir un long, cómo abrir un short, cómo encontrar Bitcoin, Ethereum, etcétera, cómo sacar tu dinero, cómo poner un stop loss, todo eso. Y si no eres un trader profesional, quieres aprender esto y no te quieres apalancar, Bitunix te deja apalancarte hasta 125x, Blofin hasta 150x, BTCC, todos los enlaces están aquí abajo, que también BTCC, lo que tienes que también puedes traer acciones tokenizadas. Tiene hasta 500x de apalancamiento. Pero si no sabes tradear, te recomiendo, en todos estos exchanges tienen un modo simulador. Úsalo hasta que te sientas cómodo y después mete poquito dinero para que veas cómo cambia tu mentalidad. Es la manera de hacerlo. Y si no quieres aprender de esto, quieres aprender de inversiones, lo básico y lo mejor que puedes hacer es simplemente ver nuestro curso para principiantes de cero a trader. Es literalmente 1 hora 40 minutos. Te enseña qué es un gráfico, cómo funciona, cómo leer una vela, patrones de velas, etcétera. Y con eso puedes ver nuestros videos gratis 3 veces a la semana y aprender. Y cualquier pregunta, lo saben, el próximo jueves tenemos clase. Yo creo que la voy a cambiar al martes porque es literalmente Navidad. Nadie va a estar acá. Entonces voy a platicar con estos tíos a ver qué podemos hacer. Pero pues ahí lo tienen, damas y caballeros. Sin más ni más, les traigo a Alex y a Farhan y vamos a darle para adelante. Good morning, boys. How are you?
Buenos días, muchachos.
Sorry, I'm fucking losing my mind because I have to explain the same fucking thing 30 billion times. Because when the law passed for the blockchain thing, the Genius Act and all that crap, right? That everybody was, well, when they announced that they were literally going to turn the dollar into something else, and I don't know why when they announced that, everyone's like, nah, bro, that's a conspiracy theory. But now that they actually came out with it and Coinbase did like a nice little PDF presentation and a PowerPoint presentation, I have to repeat myself again on that because now it's real, apparently. Not before when it passed into law. Now that there's a PowerPoint presentation is real. So
Yeah, now
I
it's
hate
real.
repeating myself more than
Now that
anything.
the bald guy has spoken, it's real.
Exactly. What? And that's the authority, right? That's what
Yeah,
I need to do with my
it's because you
fucking
have
hair.
hair. It's because you have hair. They won't listen.
I see. I'll do something. Don't worry about it. By the way, nature's doing something about it, so I don't even have to do anything about it. What are we? What are we looking at today, boys?
Let me check.
Bitcoin. Are we finally going up? Everyone's been telling me. Capo had told us that he was a bear trap. I remember. How'd that go?
It's been a few bear traps on this move down. It's been a few of them.
You're starting this off, Mr. Farhan?
Yeah, I'll start
do
us
it.
off. I'll get this ship running. So on the daily, we are currently getting a pretty significant bounce off of that 88.3%. Probabilities were on the side of bouncing from that zone, had an 11.7% chance of continuation. But what told you that you were likely going to bounce is once you failed to close below that 88.3%. Once you closed above that 88.3%, and then you got a back test of your 78.6%, this was telling you that you're likely going to get a bounce at least as we test this 5 EMA. And right now you are pretty a good amount over the 5 EMA. That's at about 87,300. You're ever so slightly above the 9 right now. 9 is just below 88,000 at 87,990. Let's say 88,000. What bulls want to see right now is a close over this 9 EMA. Then we can see a move slightly higher to somewhere around 90,000, 91,000, somewhere between this 21 EMA and this median. At that point, you would want to continue seeing close. But the important part is not going to be seeing a closure over this median. What you want to see is a close over this 38.2%. Ideally over the 21 EMA, but it's not really needed. More so is important as a close over this 38.2%. And then you want to see some consolidation around this 38.2%, and then you can see a move into the low to mid 30s, somewhere around 93 and 95,000. But there's a lot of ifs before predicating that statement of 93 to 95 that requires a close back over this 9, and then a close back over this 38.2%, some consolidation around this 38.2%, and then that move up. Right now, momentum is flipping back up, getting out of the bearish control zone with volatility now contracting, and the jewel is starting to lose the downwards curvature just a little bit, and very close to switching into a neutral signal. Let's go back into the previous low. What is this at? This is at 86,248, and this one is at 85,000. So we did make a lower low with a lower low on momentum, so there's no possibility of divergence there. Made a higher low here with a higher low on price, no divergence there as well. Let's go to the 4 hour. 4 hours now starting to tick down on momentum, but it's still above that moving average, with volatility also still contracting, and the 4 hour jewel is still playing out the buy signal. Right now, we did get a close back over the 38.2%, with the 9 EMA crossing above the 21 now. What we want to see is a price continue to hold this top 38.2%, and then maybe another retest of the 38.2%. Then you should see a move from there into somewhere around 89 to 90,000, as long as the 38.2% holds. A little bit lower. 2 hour also still flipped up with volatility expanding, although you are tapping some pretty extreme areas now, sitting above the 88.3%. What you want to see is continue to hold this 88.3%, back test this area while the ranges can step up, and then you can see a move up. But as of right now, just like we had probabilities against us from going downwards, now we have probabilities against us from continuing upwards in the short term. And 2 hours close to giving a silver cross. If we do get that move into the 90s, it's going to likely be off of this silver cross. 12 hours closed over the median. Now we're just back testing the median, still holding it from now with the momentum pointing up. Volatility is now at extreme lows, and the 12 hours going skipping the neutral phase and going directly from sell signal to buy signal. Pretty rare that happens. Right now, we want to see it continue to hold over this median at 87,400, and then from there we should see a spring upwards into 90,000. Let's go to the index. 2 days starting to flip back up on momentum, rejecting the bearish control zone, getting back over that moving average, with whole 2 day getting back into that 38.2%. Want to see a close over about 86,300, and then you should likely see a back test of that 86,000 area, and then a move into 90 to 91,000, which is the median currently. That would still just be a lower high in a series of lower highs. To take out your lower high, you would want to see a close back over about 96,800, and then from there you should see a move into the 100s. But it's going to take a lot to get back over 96,800 on a closing basis. And there's presently no divergence. Let's go back a little bit real quick. Zoom in. 2-day jewels very close to giving you a powerful buy signal. If this does cross back over the yellow, the pink over the yellow within the bearish control zone, this will likely takes you up to that mid 90K to $100,000 region. Although these are starting to diverge a little bit, so that is making it a little bit less likely, but the possibility is still there. If you see a nice move up to tag somewhere around 90,000, this likely will cross. 5-day also flipped up with volatility contracting. 5-day jewel also giving you a buy signal. 5-day is currently rejecting the 38.2%, however, and rejecting the 9 EMA off of this silver cross to the downside. And the 5-day is currently forming hidden bearish divergence after taking out all of these previous previous high right here and this high right here, giving you 3 drives of hidden bearish divergence because price is still making lower highs. And this will confirm with any close below 85,177, and that'll give you an easy move down to this 200 EMA at 200 SMA at around $69,000 to $70,000. If we were to close back over this 5 EMA slash 38.2%, about $90,000, that's what gives us that move into about 100,000. Weekly is also currently flipped up on momentum with volatility going into a contraction phase. Weekly is currently bouncing or continue to hold this 100 EMA at about $85,800. If we do close red like this, you're likely going to get a retest of that zone. And at that point, if you lose it, that's where you capitulate. If you continue to hold it, that's where you get that move into 100,000. 2-week also flipped to the downside with volatility expanding. 2-week 55 EMA, basically the same as the weekly 100. Right now, if you do see a bounce up, if you continue to hold this 55, takes you to somewhere around about 95,000 to 99,000. And that all depends on the holding this on a closing basis. And 2-week jewel still playing out the sell signal with the pink crossing below the yellow. Monthly also flipped to the downside. Monthly is now confirmed in the bearish control zone with volatility expanding. This is the first time monthly has monthly has entered the bearish control zone in this entire bull market. The last time we entered into the bearish control zone was in April of 2022, and within the next 3 monthly candles, we dropped like 70% in price. Not nice. And the other time previously, before we entered into the bearish control zone, was about the start of the bear market in 2018. And we currently have bearish divergences as well, about 3 drives, currently multiple drives actually, because we have several higher highs of price with multiple lower highs on momentum. With the monthly jewel now very close to giving us a pink below yellow cross. This is like a ball sack here with the pink above the yellow right now. Once these do cross, though, this is going to be the second time in history we've had this bearish cross with the pink below the yellow. The last time this happened was in March of 2022, and Luna happened right after that. Right now, the monthly 21 EMA is trying to hold. To lose this is where you're likely going to dump to the 60s. Quarterly putting in a massive bearish engulfing dildo, which will confirm with any close below 105, 159. Plus, it'll confirm bearish divergence in the quarterly, which is going to be the first drive of bearish divergence we've had this entire quarterly, entire bull market. Plus, momentum is now entering into the bearish control zone for the first time this entire bull market. And the last time monthly momentum or quarterly momentum entered into the bearish control zone was April of 2022. And in that same candle, we went from 47,500 to 17,600. Quite an aggressive move down in one candle. And quarterly jewel is now losing the buy signal, switching into a neutral, just like we did back then, right before that 70% move down. Going to the other side. Daily on tether dominance still has active hidden bullish divergence, and this will be active as long as you're closing over about 6.113%, and your next target on the divergence is going to be the bullish control zone, which currently sits at about 6.43%. And you currently have volatility expanding with that hidden bullish divergence. 4-hour currently has multiple drives of bearish divergence. This will be active as long as you're closing below 6.599%, and your next target on that bearish divergence is going to be the bearish control zone, which currently sits at about 6.09%, and you have volatility expanding with the bearish divergence. And you have a very bearish cross in the 4-hour jewel, the pink crossing below the yellow. 2-hour also has multiple drives of bearish divergence. This will be active as long as you're closing below 6.549%. Next move is into the bearish control zones, is at about 6.19%, with volatility now going into a contraction phase. 8-hour has hidden bullish divergence. This will be active as long as you're closing over 6.308%, and now you're forming a third drive of hidden bullish divergence because you're currently making a higher low with momentum breaking the previous low. Although this will require a close over 6.601% to confirm. That'll give you a target into the sevens. Mm. 2-day is currently now forming hidden bullish divergence as well, because you have taken out all of these previous lows with price making steadily higher lows. This will confirm with any close over, I believe this one here, yeah, 6.483%, and that'll give you a move into somewhere around 7% on confirmation, which is a simple moving average. And volatility is now about to confirm expansion above 15% with that hidden bullish divergence present. You're sitting at about 11.5%. Let's zoom in. 3-day is also forming hidden bullish divergence now. This will confirm with any close over 6.531%. That gives you a move into about 7%. With volatility now at extreme lows. Interesting that these bounces on Bitcoin are literally just putting in hidden bullish divergences on Tether. Nothing there. Let's zoom in a little bit. So we are taking out the previous lows. Interesting. Well, price is making a higher low. That gives you a possibility for hidden bullish divergence on the quarterly as well on Tether. And this will confirm with any close over, I believe it is this one here, 6.767%. And that gives you a move into about 10% on confirmation. That's very not good for Bitcoin. I was thinking of another word, but couldn't think of one. Pretty bad. Let's go to 10%. Yikes, that's like 60% up on Tethers. Now we'll go into Bitcoin. Daily. Let's zoom in a little here. Daily is forming hidden bearish divergence on CME. Not good. And this will confirm with any close below 84,505. That gives you a move into about 77,500 on confirmation. See, daily spot is not forming it, however. More important when CME. 4-hour currently has multiple drives of bullish divergence confirmed. This will be active as long as you're closing over 84,484, and your next move is into the bullish control zone at about 90,400. Nothing. 2-hour currently has bullish divergence. Actually, is it a lower low? Yeah, lower low on momentum, and also lower low on price and no divergence. Invalidating the hidden bearish divergence. You're already in the critical zone, however. Eight hours now putting in a fresh drive of bullish divergence. This will be 1, 2, 3, 4 drives. This will confirm with any close over $88,480, and that will give you a move over actually 88,508, and that'll give you a move into the bullish control zone, which sits at 93,600 on confirmation, with volatility now back at extreme lows with this bullish divergence appearing. Nothing. This Bitcoin shit really likes to give you the fake breakdowns, short squeeze, multiple times over before you get the real breakdown. It's really a piece of shit. Nothing here. Still have that active weekly bearish divergence from way back, and this will be active as long as you're closing over about $115,444. Your next target is the critical zone, which will update several times over, but right now it's sitting at 53,300. 2-week also still has active bearish divergence. Critical bearish control zone sitting at 84.9. Nothing there. Monthly is still forming that possibility of hidden bullish divergence, though, but it will be invalidated once you close below 82,567. As of now, you haven't gotten that close, so it's still possible, but you will need a close over $126,219 to confirm. Seems a little unlikely for that to happen. But if you do confirm, that gives you a move into about 132,000. Quite unlikely to get a close over 126 though. That's a move up of about like $40,000 from here. And quarterly is now forming that fresh drive bearish divergence, which will confirm with any close below 105, 159, and that gives you a minimum move down to somewhere around 66,000 to 66 to 69,000 for a little bit of a bounce, but that bounce very likely does fail, and that takes you towards this 21 EMA, which is your the 21 EMA on the the 55 EMA. It's the 21 on the 6 month and the 55 on the quarterly, and that puts you at around like 38,000 right now, but this is going to rise with every single close, and it's more closer with the 21 on the quarterly, which currently sits in the $40,000 area, which I do think is going to be somewhere where you're going to find your next bottom around the next bear market. Because if you look at the 2022 bear market, we find our bottom right around that 21 EMA, which I'm thinking is going to be the same case here. This breakout zone at the $40,000 right in this area here, where the ETS went live, slight dip below that area. Maybe dip into somewhere around the 30s, and then from there close back over 40, consolidate in that area, maybe retest the lows, and then send it upwards. And that will probably take like 2 years, maybe 3 years to play out fully. So you're probably not going to see some new all-time highs for a while. With 6 month also forming 3 drives of bearish divergence, which will confirm with any close below 74,441. And that gives you a target down to about 56,600 currently. And I'm going to our momentum. Daily is currently flipped to the downside on momentum, with volatility expanding and very close to flipping back up. If you can close in about 8 hours and 41 minutes over $89,150, this will flip back up. And this will be a rejection of the critical zone, likely taking you back at least towards the edge of the bullish control zone. That goes along with the most slightly higher into about 90 to 91,000. But the caveat on that is this requires a daily close over this number. So it's all going to come down to the daily close. Definitely possible for us to come get a retest at this 21 EMA and then just continue to reject it like we have been doing all the way through. 12-hour currently flipped up with a derp of life, and it's going to be flipped up as long as you're closing over 85,850. See, the last time we had a derp of life, we got to move into the 21, front ran the 55. This one here, we got to move into the 21, front ran the 55. The difference is right now we are slightly above that 21, so we want to see a closure over 21. Then we can see that move into about 90 to 91,000. 4-hour also flipped up with a double derp of life, and volatility is expanding from extreme lows, and it's going to be flipped up as long as you're closing over 85,700. And on this next projection, you're projected to be at the edge of the bullish control zone. So if this pivot remains the same or it goes down, that's going to basically tell us that we're going to go into the 90s. If this pivot goes up on this close, though, this is going to tell us that we're likely going to reject somewhere around this zone. 2 hours also flipped up, and it's going to remain flipped up as long as you're closing over 87,000. Hourly is currently flipped down, but it will flip back up if you can close over 89,200. And 30-minute is very close to flipping back up, with volatility now starting to tick up from extreme lows. And this will flip back up if you can close over 88,800. And this flipping back up here would be maintaining the bullish control zone, and that'll send us into the critical zone with volatility support. And I'm pretty sure this will be flipped up to confirm it, and it is indeed flipped up with volatility support, and it will remain flipped up as long as you're closing over 88,500. Let's go to the index. 2-day is currently also flipped up with volatility at extreme lows, and it will remain flipped up as long as you're closing over 88,750. 5-day is also flipped up with volatility contracting, and it's going to remain flipped up as long as you're closing over about 87,000. And momentum is flipped. Momentum being flipped up with volatility contracting with the silver cross to the downside makes it much more likely you're just going to get a bearish retest. The question is, will that bearish retest be somewhere around 91 to 92,000 or upwards to around 100 to 101,000? That's going to be the question. And both of these entries give you very tight stop losses, because if you were to enter right around 91 to 92,000, your stop loss would be this wick high here at about 94,635. And if you were to enter around that 101 area, your stop loss would be a little bit higher at about 107,461. But the benefit of this one here is that this short here gives you much more of an extreme move, so you don't really need as much leverage. Because if you reject somewhere around this 100 to 101 area, you're going to be targeting at a minimum somewhere between 74 to 76,000, but realistically somewhere around 66 to 69,000. If you want to be conservative, you would take TP somewhere around 74 to 76, because even that is a very significant move. And you would just have another lower high in a series of lower highs on your momentum as well. And also, another thing to point out is that this is the first time in this entire bull market you've had a silver cross to the downside on the 5-day. Every single time in history you've had a silver cross to the downside, you've had a slight rally into that silver cross, and then you got a move of basically a free move into your 200 SMA. And let me show you. We went over this last stream, but we'll do it again for funsies. You got a silver cross to the downside right here. You got to move into the silver cross. It's not really important whether you close over the cross or not. What you want to see is a close over your previous lower high, which you never got. And all of these moves, you get closes over the cross, which would make people think that it's been invalidated. But you never took out the previous lower high in any single one of them, which kept the trend intact and sent it down to your free move to the 200 SMA. You got your move back up here, failed to take out this lower high, then you got basically a free move into this 200 SMA, find another silver cross to the downside. You got one right here. You got to move back up, close over the cross, but you failed to take out this last major lower high on a closing basis. And also this one got that moved down to the 200 SMA. This was the COVID dump. You went way below the 200 SMA. But this was another statistical statistical setup that you had before COVID happened that told you it was bearish. Imagine we get another one of these COVID dumps. Here we go, silver cross right here. Got another retest, close over the silver cross, but failed to take out this lower high. Free move to the 200 SMA after some consolidation. Now we're really early in Bitcoin's history, and this is still being respected. Silver cross, move down, retest the cross, failed to take out that last lower high. This one didn't even close over the cross. Free move to the 200 SMA. And each one of these actually went significantly below the 200 SMA. And we're all the way back in 2015 when Bitcoin was trading at 160 bucks. And it still respected this strategy / rule of having that silver cross down, retesting the cross, failing to take out the last lower high, and then free move to the 200 SMA. Which, if that were to hold true, the last lower high is at about $107,000. Come back up to this $100,000 area, would hold true to all of those similar moves. Fail to close back over this lower high, not really important if you close over the cross or not. And then from there, maybe you see some consolidation sideways for a little bit, and then you get that free move to somewhere around $69,000. But if the trend holds true and you go below that 200 SMA, that would take you to that RSI target of around $66,000. Somewhere around $66,000 to $69,000, I think, is going to be that move. And that's where you likely get the big bounce, which likely does fail, and then into somewhere around $50,000 to sub $50,000 after that. Weekly is currently pointed down with volatility expanding, but it will flip up if you can close over $84,950. This would also go along with that move into 100K. This flips back up. 2-week currently also flipped down with derp of death and volatility very close to confirming expansion. And this will be flipped down as long as you're closing below $116,000. Yikes. That pivot is very high up. So, so if you were to get volatility confirmed on expansion, that will give you about 85% chance of momentum price going in the direction of momentum, which is currently down. So if you were to say it expands somewhere around that 100,000, 101,000 area, let's take it from there and bring it about 35% down. Brings us to roughly 64 to 65,000. Very interesting, right along my meme line. Amazing. That's very cool. Let's say it expands from here, although it's not. It's possible. That would require daily momentum to remain or to flip down though. And then you'll get this move to about 56 to 57,000. If daily momentum stays back up, 5-day momentum stays back up, likely going to expand somewhere around 100. But even that is a very significant move to the 60s. And the monthly is also now very close to firing off a volatility setup with momentum freshly flipped to the downside, putting in 3 drives of bearish divergence. And this is the first time in the entire bull market the monthly momentum has lost a critical zone. But just like the 2-week, there is still some hopium because you haven't taken out the previous low of 82,567 on a closing basis yet. So there is possibility of hitting bullish divergence. But once that low is taken out on the closing basis, there will no longer be possibility of that divergence. And right now, to confirm that divergence, you have to close over $121,300. A little unlikely as of this moment to happen. And this pivot did go up from the previous close. It was previously at 120,000. Now it's at 121, which is not exactly bullish to see the pivot go up. And quarterly is freshly flipped to the downside with bearish divergence. And quarterly is very close to losing the critical zone. This is the first time quarterly has flipped down this entire bull market. The last 2 times we've had quarterly flip down were both bear markets. We had quarterly momentum flip down here in January of 2022, the start of the bear market. And then we had momentum flip down in January of 2018. They also started the bear market at about $17,200 before he went down to $30,000. So everything is lining up towards it being a bear market as of this moment. It's more on the side of bulls to prove that it isn't, rather than bears to prove that it's a bear market. And on the high time frames, momentum is all shifting into bearish favor now. Quarterly is putting in a bearish engulfing dildo with bearish divergence, with momentum freshly flipping to the downside for the first time this entire bull market. Monthly is flipped to the downside with bearish divergence, losing the critical zone for the first time this entire bull market, putting in volatility setup, which is very close to firing off. 2-week is right on the edge of firing off a volatility setup, and it will be positioned to the downside as long as you're closing below $116,000. And that would, if it expands from here, would take us to somewhere around $56,000, and if it expands from that $100,000 zone, it would take us somewhere around $65,000 to $66,000. It's going to really depend on how daily and 5-day momentum hold up into this next close, and if the weekly also flips up on this weekly close, which is very close to doing, if that happens, then you're very likely going to get that 2-week volatility expansion from that 100,000 zone. And I personally would like to see that 2-week expansion from the 100,000 zone give us a little bit of time for the HPDR ranges to step down, making it a lot more easy for us to dump, plus giving us that invalidation with that 107 region, plus giving us a nice 30% move to the downside, which you won't need a lot of leverage on. You can put that on a 20x and make an absolute killing off of that, catching that move to even 76,000 or 74,000. And depending on the weekly close, it's going to tell you whether you're going to get that move to that 100,000 region or you're going to top somewhere around this zone here. All really going to depend on weekly close. And right now, momentum on the low time frames is flipping up with volatility expanding. And if we can maintain that momentum upwards right now, and 8-hour very close to forming another drive of bullish divergence, kind of forming bullish divergences across the board on the low time frames. If you continue to hold those and get a close over 92,000, then I would see a move into that silver cross on the 5-day to the 55 EMA right around 101,000. And very high probability the same thing is going to happen on every single one of these past 5-day silver crosses. You're going to get a move to that 55. Fail to take out that last major lower high. Not important if you close over the 55 or not. And then from there, you're going to see some consolidation and then basically a free move to that $69,000 area. And the invalidation right now is simply just getting a close back over $116,000 or getting $116,000 for getting to all-time highs. And for the move to 116,000, you want to see a close back over 107.
Beautiful, beautiful. What a nice little bounce we've had after that move down after yesterday. I mean, it plays very into this move and chop and range that we've been experiencing. Really hasn't been fun. But in my opinion, there's a few things that we should talk about that really yesterday showed me kind of the weakness, and really this bounce that we've had so far, to me, still pretty predictable. In this move down that we actually reached that 84,200 region, again, that was a big spot. Remember, we were gauging these lows here. It seemed very likely once you take out 87.5, you're going to start moving down. We talked about the fact that 86,000 most likely is not going to hold, considering, well, you've just been producing lows right in that region. It's been a bounce zone. And really, let me see here on this high here, in this region should have solidified some kind of lower time frame higher low. This was the bull trap, and in doing so, you actually finally came down to that 84K region. Now, mind you, if you go to the daily anytime, you really haven't tested this region since all the way over here back in the beginning of December. This is very important because, well, what happened here when you reached 84K was you did make bottoms. These bounces were pretty impressive. I mean, let's just measure this one out from this wick high, 10%. Interesting. We'll go back over here. That was a 12% move. Very interesting. And so now you've reached the zone again. You've tapped it. And so far you've bounced, let's see, 6%. Now, to me, am I expecting a 10% mean reversion bounce? We're so back and we're about to pump all the way up to that 95.5K region. No, actually, to me, the predictable bounce now is just solidifying 87.5 SR. Now, what do I mean by that? The 84,300 region was a logical place to find a bounce, but at that point, you need to be watching for the SR around 87.5. Again, we're still gauging this weekly EMA 100. The more times you come into this region, the weaker it does become. But going back to the daily, right, 87.5 is still proven resistance. So if you're trying to become a bull today, it's still way too early to be longing here. You need some structure to form. You need a reclaim of 87.5, specifically that daily 9. If you can get those two things and consolidation, okay, that'll be my first sign that perhaps we are going to get a major move out from that low 84K region. But until then, I mean, look at even what occurred today. You actually didn't even take out yesterday's wick high. That's important to note. Let's look at the lower timeframes here. And all you basically have done really, you just rallied up to the 12-hour EMA 34. You're very close to a long or a buy trigger here. But the last three major rejections have come off of this 12-hour EMA 34. Let's just see it for the reference here from that EMA 34, not even to the top of this wick, down. This was about a 4% rejection from that EMA 34 on the 12-hour. Here we had a perfect retest before, well, how was price action yesterday for bulls? Terrible. And notice the characteristic of this chop has really been, let's make major moves up in the beginning of New York Open that then end up selling off. So again, even on this 12-hour perspective, you are holding the 9, but still rejecting resistance. So you're just between like the moving average range now. And so today you really need to be watching if 87.5 is going to hold, continue to consolidate, and maybe you'll get an expansion from that. But until then, really, has anything changed from this move up? No. Actually, you could argue at this point, you've actually just solidified more bearish structure than you had yesterday. You got your lower low, and unfortunately for Bitcoin bulls, they've quickly now solidified their lower high at the exact same spot that really has been rejecting. And then when you go to the daily, did you take out yesterday's high? No. Yesterday's high is a pretty easy spot to kind of gauge if you will maybe move up. But staying under yesterday's high still is a concern for me that this rally very easily can start selling off. Let's go to the 2-hour now. Where are we on the 2-hour? Well, you're right at that 2-hour EMA 100. So even the 2-hour is giving you a setup here, which is you're very easily, at the spot where you could start moving up, maybe test 91.3, 92.2, take out that December 17th wick high rejection. But even in this perspective, you had a massive deviation. You've expanded down. And now what you're doing is consolidating above 87.5, but still under that EMA 100 on the 2-hour. This is important because this is going to be the first big sign for bulls on a lower time frame, like a 2-hour, to really gauge if that daily and specifically that 12-hour is actually going to hold 87.5 today. But what you can see now is, well, you're doing that fuckery that we've had in the beginning of the early mornings. You massively go up, bulls think you're breaking out, to then it just reverting and selling off. You're potentially going to get maybe a setup that we had yesterday. And what do I mean by this? Once you lose 87.5, this will start confirming any price action up here is just really to trap bulls before lower. I'll go to the 4-hour. Where is our 4-hour EMA 100? Let's see. And the reason I'm really talking about the lower time frames right now is I think it's important when we get volatility. That way we can really get a perspective on, well, should we be looking for longs here, or should we still be cautious, and is this actually an opportunity? Because before I started this analysis, again, we measured this out. You've gone up about 5-6%, I believe. Let me accurately do that. We're professionals here. You've gone up 5.85%. So pretty impressive, actually. But if this is going to be a lower high, that's a concern. And let's really observe this 4-hour. Let me see this high of 87,113, 87,519. No, 89,464. My apologies. 89,376. You can just see right here on the 4-hour, very dirty here if we do start selling off. This is dirty. And you had your lower low. Is this just a massive lower high at the very easy spot, that 4-hour EMA 100, which is a good perspective. Under the 4-hour EMA 100, you're really not allowed to become a bull, even on lower time frames. So what this will start meaning is, well, then that 2-hour, 3-hour, hourly is still at resistance. Just look at the moving averages. Really, this 4-hour EMA 100, I always talk about it. It's one of my favorite short setups and longs, actually, on a 4-hour, because this kind of can help you gauge how the daily and 12-hour will shape up simply using a 4-hour. And I'll always preface this: it only works when you're trending trending with volatility. If you're just chopping, not going to work the best. But even on this move down, when we actually reached that low 80K region, the 4-hour EMA 100 was the easy gauge to hold, just as your perspective on should I be longing or shorting. You can make pretty big moves to the 4-hour EMA 100, but as long as you don't close above it, it doesn't mean anything. Here you have a 7.62%, and just gauging this moving average on the 4-hour is really a simple perspective. Is you didn't really, you moved up 7.6%, but you didn't reclaim it. No reclaim. Higher high question mark, that's good, but still no reclaim. So I'm a little cautious. This is a 4-hour. Here you had your breakdown. And then ever since that retest here, consolidation, did Bitcoin really get a chance to test that? No. From that point, you ended up dumping 24%. Again, very important when we're getting major volatility setups on the higher time frames, telling you a 20-25% move still at this region is very likely. So when we're gauging this move today, and I'm seeing on crypto Twitter for some reason now, a lot of people are talking about the weekly EMA 100. I was actually saying in the early mornings, people were laughing at bears, saying, "Wow, I can't believe you guys didn't just focus on the weekly EMA 100." Oh no, we're very focused on that. The idea though is that's not always going to hold if you don't get a Glock 3000 bullish expansion move out of here. And so far you have not. This candle, this candle body is not really forming. Let's go to CME. It, in my opinion, shows it cleaner. Okay, so you had a breakdown. You've hit the weekly EMA 100. Again, we're just supposed to be longing this before we reach $150,000. And it's funny because you hear sentiment also. Another side note, you hear sentiment. People are saying we're very, very bearish in sentiment. I really don't see that quite yet. I was just at dinner the other night ago, and some random guy came up to me and told me Bitcoin's going to 150K in 5 months. So that to me doesn't seem like sentiment is in the gutter quite yet. Still seems like we need some lower price action to get that delusional idea, kind of out of the air. And even on this weekly EMA 100, we should be longing this. Yeah, I agree. And this was the idea going into this week. You've had some pretty epic bounces off the weekly EMA 100. Every time you've hit it, you've gotten some kind of reaction. Now that you're seeing crypto Twitter talk about that, you really have to understand that most likely is not going to be the case anymore. If you end up selling off or into next week on CME, coming back down to this weekly EMA 100, it's the same idea that I've been talking about for 2 weeks now. You have to be watching for this to break down. Once you break down you really will have nothing but air until that SMA 200. So to me, Bitcoin doesn't look very bullish, and actually it looks like you've just freshly entered into a weekly breakdown, and you got the predictable bounce, but as long as you're staying under that 94K region, there's really no long to be had here. Look at just in a very simple perspective, look at when we're bullish, look at the white line. When you're above 94K, we're so back. That's when you can literally start talking about higher. Look at the reactions when you're under it. I mean, you're chopping and you're moving down. I know we bottomed here, but let's just focus here. We wicked, and then we came up to this 87, 88K region, and then let's just see the reaction down. I mean, you went down 15%, testing 74K again. The moves, once you lose 94K on Bitcoin, so far I've been shown can be very violent down, very aggressive. This is what we want to be really paying attention to. They're just talking about the weekly EMA 100, which is important, right? If you're longing that, it's really, in my opinion, one of the only places. There's two real ideas for bulls to be longing. It's this weekly view, and then it's the monthly view. The monthly view is interesting because, well, you're just still at that monthly 21. But you can quickly see in this perspective, if you're trying to be bullish, in my opinion, you just have 2 points. You have that weekly and monthly. The issue with that weekly is, well, what I've said, you've already come down so many times and hit that. You're not getting that clock 3000 expansion move out, that ripping, going up past 100K move, or even at minimum going up 94K. This is looking weak. This isn't the reactions you want. This should have been the move up, and this should have taken you back above 94K. But on the flip note, you're just literally SRing 94K. So that weekly perspective is already diminishing if you're running with that, trying to be bullish. But then it's really hard to run with a weekly perspective when it's, okay, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks now here. When the bi-weekly actually is in a massive breakdown, and this still has not changed from last time we talked about it, really since the beginning of November, essentially. Notice that you've consolidated. You haven't broken down, but you haven't broken out. This is bearish consolidation. Now, this is an interesting point because you haven't really had bearish consolidation in this bull market. So what you're getting is a lot of people not understanding this characteristic, which is bearish. I mean, show me in this bull market where you've had this kind of consolidation, really since the Hamas or October breakout. We have not had that. So I have to be really looking at this as a shift. That's what we call market shifts. And so this is an interesting perspective because price action that worked here and here is not going to work here. And so when, again, you're going on CR and you're seeing a lot of people talking about the bull market, you do have to understand that things are completely shifted. The past 3-4 months have really shifted things, now making us in a bear market. So where you had bullish consolidation all throughout the bull market that led to expansion, right? Bullish consolidation that led to expansion. You're now potentially in an environment where you're consolidating. It's an interesting environment because this consolidation is actually getting a lot of people bullish for some reason. I mean, whenever you reach 94K, I could not believe how many people were just saying we're so back. On a bi-weekly EMA 34 retest, this is exactly why using the moving averages on a higher time frame can really be your friend, because this can at least help you understand, yeah, no, we're not bullish. This is actually giving us that SR right at that 94K confluence with that bi-weekly EMA 34. My next technical target is technically this 67K, but for me, I won't be that cheeky. We'll just take it to 69. This is the technical setup here with even volatility. Now, finally, for the first time ever, so maybe you don't believe that this is a big shift in markets. Maybe you don't believe we're in a massive bear market. But then, bi-weekly volatility tells you you should be paying attention to that idea, because for the first time ever in this entire bull market, you're finally getting bi-weekly volatility confirming down. This is now freshly, the last bi-weekly candle closure we had confirmed this was expanding, now sitting at 20.1%. this is maturing. And so into the next biweekly, which is actually interesting because this biweekly is closing in 6 hours now. So actually, we can look at the HPDR now. Possibly in the new 2-week candle, this will just start again, giving you a major move down. Now, I will say into this biweekly candle, I actually wanted to see that expansion down. You actually opened up on a massive move up, letting shorts actually scale in once again, very gracious of Bitcoin, before selling off. So now I have to really be looking at, okay, well, this is done. Really should not, in my opinion, be testing anywhere near that 94K anymore. And so technically now what I'm going to be looking for is just BBWP to take action on this new 2-week candle. So if you're trying to long Bitcoin, actually, now that I'm looking at this on the 2-week, it really seems like the bi-weekly and the 3-day are lining up for a major breakdown. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you go to the index here, the 3-day actually had a pretty nice breakdown into last night. I guess it was 2 nights ago. And again, what do I mean by this? Well, we've been really gauging 87.5. We identified last stream, today's Friday, so yeah, on Wednesday stream, we identified that really, honestly, the easy perspective has been, let's just, instead of doing this on a daily, look at this on a daily. It's a little choppy, right? Let's just gauge it on a 3-day. And actually, the last 3-day confirmed you had a massive breakdown. This was the first 3-day candle closure under 87.5 since that move in the middle of November. This is important because, well, to me, if I'm gauging a $69,000 Bitcoin before December's over, I mean, now we have, it's December 19th. So you actually should be looking for bears to be slowly putting in things like this. A breakdown, loss of support, bearish retest on the 3-day SMA 200. So that's already solidified and done. Meaning, in my perspective, you should have no reason at all to come back to this wick high before this 3-day closes, if that makes sense. So before this 3-day candle closes, this high looks locally top to me, meaning if you're running with shorts now, you kind of have an easy perspective on, well, as long as you stand at 89,220, I mean, this should just start filling out this wick body, this candle wick body. And because why do you have that perspective? Well, 3-day SMA 200, lost. You've rallied up, massive bearish retests. And now what you're potentially also confirming with this breakdown is a loss of 87.5. Mind you, this has been literally holding since we reclaimed it in November. So to me, when you're looking at this in confluence with that new biweekly candle, and mind you, index actually hasn't even confirmed this volatility setup quite yet. You've only have it confirmed on Tether dominance, which we'll talk about later, and Bitcoin CME. So again, even in this new bi-weekly CME candle happening by Monday, or even into next week, it's still pretty much brewing a major breakdown. And what you're slowly seeing now is just the beginnings of that on the 3-day, in my opinion, prepping us all for a major bi-weekly CME. Because again, if my idea that I've had held since October, which is we're going to reach 69K before the end of December, well, this means that this new bi-weekly candle is going to just be it. Should be the move down, in my opinion, if that idea is going to actually take hold, which so far I've shown really should be no reason why this doesn't happen. So for me now, we're now just still here. I mean, unfortunately, we've been here for a few weeks. You've been still watching Bitcoin. GG to you, because this is where a lot of people sign off. But now we're really gauging a major move here. It's actually interesting to see CME's weekly, because even giving you confluence of maybe that 3-day SMA 200 being the local top idea, you even put in a massive weekly evening star here. And now you're actually getting follow through. Again, just implications for the fact that into next week, into the new bi-weekly CME candle, things could actually be quite disastrous. Excuse me. Now observe monthly EMA 34. If you lose the 21, that's the next target. Now the monthly is closing in 12 days. And so that's why the 3-day and weekly and bi-weekly will be our friends. But again, we won't ignore this monthly EMA 34. How my system works is the higher you go on the time frames, the stronger the moving averages become. Right? You saw very greatly how an EMA 9 held the entire bull market on a monthly. In the 21's kind of that mid-range. And then the EMA 34 is that extremity low. If you lose the EMA 34, this is often when you capitulate or massively move down. Now, we cannot disregard that if you do, by December, reach this $69K, $74,000 region, because how my perspective is, I would expect a major wick from the monthly 34. And why do I say that? Well, if we look at the last time in this bull market, Bitcoin actually reached the EMA 34. Did it just stop there and go up? No, it did not. And this isn't very important if you're someone that likes to put bids without, a trigger. If you had just blindly had the idea, well, the monthly 9 was holding, we were consolidating off the monthly 21, so logically we should just get some reaction off that EMA 34. That would have liquidated your account. From a wick basis, you went down another 19% from simply that monthly EMA 34. This is important because for me, that's a really good perspective to have on, well, you probably shouldn't be blindly longing this region. You should rather be looking for something like this, and then a wick back up, and then consolidation. But still, that wick from where we're at on the EMA 34 down to 69K is, we'll go 69K flat. That's about 8.91%. If history plays out like last cycle, you go down 20% from this. That means that Bitcoin capitulates from this point down to that 34, and then another 20% down, reaching 60,300. So, something you don't want to be seeing. We're using that wick high, but you could also make an argument maybe Bitcoin will go down to that 2021 closing high. It's very important to see that. I won't draw that line though, but something to keep in the back of our head. My preference is wicks. But still, you have that closing high of that 2021. I'm using this wick high. You could use the closing basis, I suppose. But that just makes it a bigger target for bears. Look at bi-week, bi-monthly as well, closing in 12 days. Again, about to confirm what we already know. Perhaps Bitcoin's in a bear market. Perhaps the levels that we're holding and bottoming us this whole time are not. We're actually going to start massively rolling over. You do get confluence of that target to 69K, just simply based on that EMA 21 on the bi-monthly. Now, this is on CME. I will say the levels are a little different on index, but not by much. There's just a little premium on CME. But I like CME. Really, CME has been the easy chart to just kind of make your ideas with, and then position on index or Blofin chart. Because in my opinion, really, CME has just been really easy to understand. You have one line, you have one moving average. As long as you stay under that, 69K is still more probable with a volatility setup. Okay, now let's see here. What is dear old Bitcoin doing? Let's go to the lower time frames. I'll stop doing that, and then we'll go to tether dominance. But again, is this really the big boost of confidence that you wanted to see today if you're trying to be a bull? No, it's just looking like manipulation, something we've been seeing literally a lot this week, actually. Like, look at this. You literally have been doing this a lot. And I noted it last night. I'm like, I wonder if we're going to squeeze up from here into New York and then dump. And we're potentially going to do that. Look at right before we start. What is this, 5 a.m.? So early mornings, again, right before New York, you just start moving up. We're breaking out. We're bullish. So 4.62%. And then you're just leaving massive rejections that don't do much. Remember, this was the bull trap, and then we've broken down. And you'll also note from last stream on Wednesday, you still haven't even taken that high out. That was kind of the place if you're shorting now. And then again, no difference here. You've moved down. Let's go to the time. 5 a.m. right here before New York. You went up 2.62%. You could even argue this already started in Asia. So you were just starting to move up. Another almost 4% move. and then the New York smackdown, and you just massively break down. Pretty much what happened here. Let's go to that 5 a.m. here, right? So we've been measuring the 5 a.m., 5 a.m., 5 a.m. here. That's interesting. Maybe people are confused. Just look at this on your 4-hour, look at this on your 4-hour, and here you're getting the exact same price action. 5 a.m. pre-New York, you get that move up. We're so back. I'm a little confused. Let me move this. There we go. Measure that out. Go. You went up 2%. So you can even, let's go from this low again, started in Asia, stopped at that 5 a.m. mark. So right as New York's opening. And then here you have, again, no difference. It's actually very interesting to see that. No difference here. Now, we're actually getting the same exact setup we had yesterday, which was very successful. Even if you just took a lower time frame short, very successful. And it's all just dependent on 87.5. You're in a 4-hour buy signal. Now, what can occur here is 87.5 consolidates into the 12-hour and daily. That would be looked at as bullish and more data simply because you're holding that 12-hour EMA 9. But if you're trying to be bearish, you're just simply looking at a lower time frame loss of 87.5. You're gauging the 2-hour, like I mentioned. You're watching this 2-hour EMA 100. And if you do close this 2-hour under 87.5, that'll be your major sign that this 4-hour is actually going to churn. I guess even you're getting a 4-hour close now. Perfect. So you can just use the same idea. If you lose 87.5, that'll be your confirmation that you are going to break down. Very simply and quickly, once you lose 87.5 here, look at the reaction down. That was a 2.3% move. Cool, you reclaimed it. Again, trapped. Look at the move down. That was a 1.3% move. Could even measure this if I wanted to. Give me, it's a 2% move. And then here was, well, the major loss of it. We'll just measure from 87.5 down. That was about 3%. So, right, you're getting 2 to 3% moves on like a 4-hour setup. That's very important when it's just one criteria. 87.5. If you're bullish, hold 87.5 into today. Watch the 12-hour EMA 9, maybe be the easy long. But like I said in the beginning of this analysis, for me, it's still way too early to be longing Bitcoin. You should be looking for this. So maybe the weekend, CME, boom, you start moving up again. But if you're simply longing, there's really, in my opinion, you don't have an idea here still. You're literally in a downtrend. And it looks to me like you've just very sneakily put in the next major lower high, while also the 3-day just tested that SMA 200. So just be aware of that if you're longing, just be aware of that. If this isn't going to be a downtrend, then just take out today's high on the lower time frames. Just take out the 12-hour high here, and cool. We can then start maybe looking at that 12-hour EMA 9 to maybe be longing, a long zone potentially. But until then, I've given many reasons, and I keep doing that. And then we keep dumping on why this is not bullish quite yet. And trust me, I want to make money. If there was a long trade, I'd definitely be doing it. But even if you're longing here, it's just too aggressive. Not enough data to say 87.5 is the footing ground to be longing. Because again, you haven't even gone a daily above it. And this just plays into how impatient bulls have really been. Really, they've been very impatient. You get very easy price action if you're going to move up. It's been very easy. I'll be honest with you. You will just start moving up if you're truly going to be bullish. Yeah, you move up. Okay, cool. 87.5, expansion up, 92.2 holds. And then you move up. You don't need to make it very hard for yourself if you're trying to long. But it's very hard to long when you're not even above a 12-hour EMA 34. So that's all I have on Bitcoin. 87.5 is still the major spot for me today. So what's that? Let's go to tether dominance here. Let's check that out. I'm unsure if you're muted fine. Here we go. So yeah, again, okay, cool. So tether dominance here, very interesting because, well, you yesterday actually put in a higher high. This is very interesting because now you're actually above that 6.48% my major expansion idea, which is if the dailies can start holding above 6.485%, you're going to make a major move up to that 7.8%. This is a major range that could be starting to open up if bulls actually get a bounce today. Look at how big this range could be opening up on Bitcoin and tether dominance. Remember, there's an inverse correlation to tether dominance. It goes up, Bitcoin goes down. So if a 20% range is potentially opening up, confluence to perhaps that 69K before December closes. But look at this. You had a higher high. For me, I think let's look at the 2-day. It can be better looked at here. So you've gotten your higher high. The 2 days come down. You've retested the 2-day 9, the last spot that you've been expanding, and the last spot, and the last spot. This has been the spot you've been expanding. Again, it's like I said on Bitcoin, if you're trying to long, it doesn't need to be super hard. And if you're trying to short, this is very hard to short right now. Really, the easy trade has just been, let's long this 2-day 9. You're in a massive price structure shift on the monthly on tether dominance. And you've already gotten your higher high break. We don't like longing higher high breaks. This is crypto, and we often know you can aggressively make higher lows before going up. That just traps horny longs. So in this perspective here, in 2 days, you need to start seeing this actually form a pretty insane candle. In all honesty, really, you need to start seeing this spring off the 2-day 9, something you've been seeing. And you actually need to just simply see it get back above 6.48%. Now, horny bears, tether bears, so Bitcoin bulls, are looking at this as a massive deviation. We're about to massively break down. They're doing this, and they're looking for this. But has that even confirmed yet? No. And this is why it's really important to have the trigger if you're going to trade. This can get you in trouble if you're going to deviate. This is a breakdown. This is a false breakout. This is a trap. Volatility is going to expand down. But you can see that's all just illusions. It's all ideas. There's nothing actually confirming that idea. So that needs then to be confirmed in a day and 8 hours. So if you're actually trying to become a Bitcoin bull, that means that, well, in a day and 8 hours, this should deviate. And then again, maybe you'll have some legs to stand on to long Bitcoin for a move like this that correlates to 87.5 holding on Bitcoin. But until then, you need to be watching this 2-day very carefully because the volatility setup is actually about to fire off. Let me just put that back. And really, I mean, this is very close to expansion. And actually, something to notice, the 2-day really does like to move hard when it gets these volatility setups. I mean, really, you started to move up bigly off that 2-day here. From here, this is really what started to just move you out of here. So something to we'll just be watching as this 2 days incoming. Same with the daily, right? You'll need to see this region get bought up today. But still, too early to be longing. Tether dominance still looks very bullish to me. Very bullish. And look at the weekly SMA 200. I mean, that was kind of the big sign. Probably shouldn't be shorting tether dominance into a weekly SMA 200 when it's freshly reclaiming it and hasn't done that this entire time. So still a lot of points for bears on Bitcoin here. I understand the weekly may be churning rejective here, but again, that plays into if you're front running that idea, you probably shouldn't. If you're front running the 2 days deviating and this weekly is about to sell off, shooting star, it's going to be a major sell off, down back to that 5.93%. There's no actual confirmation of that quite yet, but you'll get it very soon in the next week potentially if you're looking for that. But just really, this is still more in favor of bulls. That's the point. Really, I'm trying to bring home on tether dominance, even on the daily and 2-day. Now we'll quickly go to Bitcoin dominance and see if anything shifted or changed here. Oh, okay, cool. So we are getting a little change, just a little bit. We actually did make that predictable move to that weekly 21. We were talking about that, but still, this arrow is saying this is a big spot. And technically speaking, this is still in bearish retest. and you lost 5.97%. You went down, you came into this region, and you started to break down. You haven't broken down yet. I don't know why I said that. You haven't broken down yet. So you need to be watching this region. This did break you down, but really you were gauging some kind of retest here if you did start to move up. Now you need to be looking at that as well, potentially retested. And so as long as you're under 59.7%, yeah, this is still going to be very bearish, and it's still in a major dump zone. To me, though, it's very easy. In the next 2 days, 8 hours, this weekly 9 can get reclaimed. That'll be confluence of a move to that 21 again, or then maybe into next week, you actually get the reclaim. Until then, this is just still putting in a bearish retest, really. Still in favor of bears, while weekly volatility is still giving you a setup. And it's been in favor of bears since you've lost this weekly 9. So again, if you're front running, the idea that the weekly 9 is going to hold and get reclaimed, like you're just front running that. There's actually no trigger for that quite yet. So in summary, 87.5 is the big spot today. You really need to just see that hold on Bitcoin going into the 12-hour and daily. If into today you see 87.5 hold, okay, that'll be the first good sign for me that perhaps this will start acting as like a consolidation support range. Until then, I am gauging this 12-hour to massively flip red before the end of the day. And I'm really gauging this move up as, well, just kind of the local top. And that's just shown here on the 3-day here. I know you can't really see it. Let me show it better. But as long as you are under this 3-day SMA 200, be very, very cautious of a massive breakdown here on Bitcoin. And even the 3-day volatility setup is giving you a setup. So just be very cautious of this and be very aware of the characteristics we've identified on stream, which has been right before New York. You massively pump about 2-3%. And then through the end of the day, near the closing, you massively sell off. And that's just been happening each time this week. So let's see if that either changes today. Maybe we don't sell off. But if we massively sell off again, into next week, we'll just remember price action, and well, we'll just see if we either get a breakout or a breakdown or maybe another retest of that 87.5 into next week. Yeah, that's all I have on Bitcoin. The Bitcoins.
Let me share my screen and go into Solaris. Click this button. There we go. And Solami. We have enough data for quarterly. So quarterly momentum is currently freshly flipping to the downside, with volatility going into expansion phase, and we're very close to entering into the bearish control zone now on the quarterly. The last time we were in the bearish control zone on the quarterly was in the bear market in 2022, when this thing went from like $200 something all the way down to $8. Quite a significant or quite a huge crash right there. I'm just curious how percentage-wise how much that was. 97% down. Pretty tranquilo there. And we are getting the same setup now. We're very close to getting that same setup we had back then, with the momentum entering into the about to enter into the bearish control zone. As of this moment, let's see what the previous close was, $124.57. So just like Bitcoin, there is still some ever so slight possibility of hitting bullish divergence here because we haven't taken out that previous low on a closing basis. But once you close below $124.57, that's no longer going to be possible. And as of right now, to confirm that divergence, you would have to close over $253.66. You got to basically double price right now to close over that to confirm that divergence, and that would give you a move up to the 38.2%, which is currently at about $415, $416. It's going to take quite a lot for that to happen. You need to see a 100% move up to confirm that divergence. As of now, what's more likely to happen is that you'll get that close below 124, and then it will no longer be possible to have that divergence. Let's see what this high is. This is $152, and this one is $154. So you currently do have bearish divergence possible, which will be confirmed with any close below $145. So what's more likely to happen right now is you're going to confirm this bearish divergence rather than confirming that hidden bullish divergence. And that bearish divergence will give you an easy target down to this 21 EMA, currently sitting at about $96, just below your psychological $100 zone. This current low is at about $95. So I do think you're going to get a little bit of a bounce from this area to try to keep the hopium alive for people that they're catching the higher low from this low here. Maybe you see that move take you up to somewhere around $120, $125. Strong possibility that's going to reject with that zone though, and then what's more likely is you're going to continue to dump. If I had to guess where Sol would bottom at, completely throwing numbers out there, just completely guessing, maybe somewhere between 60 and $80. That's just my guess, and based on nothing of fact, just opinion. Monthly is currently entering into the bearish control zone. Unlike Bitcoin, you have not gotten the close in the bearish control zone just yet. Very interesting how Sol hasn't done that, but Bitcoin has. And and you're currently getting that back test at that 38.2%, and as right now you are getting a rejection from that zone. Let's zoom in on this. See, you got a higher low on momentum with what is this low here? No divergence, just possible there. Let's see, you got momentum breaking these previous highs. So there's some hidden bearish divergence currently active. This was confirmed, what was this low here? 191. This close was at this. So this candle confirmed the hidden bearish divergence. You've gotten the easy move to your 21 EMA. Your next target is the 55, sitting somewhere around $100 to $110. And the monthly jewel is now losing the buy signal, flipping into a neutral. 2-week also flipped to the downside on momentum with volatility expanding. Currently playing out that loss of the 38.2%, got a back test and just dumped to the 100. Right now, it is kind of likely that as long as you're bouncing over this 100, you're going to get another test at this 130, 135 area, although you're likely going to reject that and then at that point dump to $100. Weekly is starting to flip back up on momentum with volatility going into a contraction phase. Weekly does currently have a fresh sell signal on the jewel. Let's zoom in with the pink crossing below the yellow. Although it is happening below the bullish control zone, it is happening above the bearish control zone. And you're also getting a fresh silver cross to the downside on the weekly. So with momentum flipped up, if you do see price bounce here, I would expect to move into somewhere around like maybe $140 to like $150. But very unlikely that you're going to break 171, and more likely you're just going to continue from there. Put in another lower high, put in some hidden bearish divergence, and then the silver cross to play out to $100. 5 days also flipped up currently on momentum with the volatility currently approaching extreme lows, and the 5-day jewel is now flashing a buy signal. This goes along with holding the bottom 38.2%, and as long as you're holding over $120, likely going to see a bounce into somewhere around 140s. And also the week of 5 days has a silver cross at the downside, which that would just be a retest of your 9 EMA on the silver cross. 2 days also flipping back up, regaining that bottom 38.2% with volatility now going into contraction. If you close over about $122, it gives you a move into the 140s. Daily also reclaiming that bottom 38.2%, the momentum flipping back up, getting back out of the bearish control zone, the volatility contracting. Got to close over about $125, and you can see it moving to about 140 to 145. 4-hour currently flipping down with volatility contracting. 4-hour jewels giving you a buy signal currently with the pink freshly crossing above the yellow in the bearish control zone with the light blue breaking out of the bearish control zone. Also, 4-hour has reclaimed the bottom 38.2%. So as of now, as long as you're closing over about $124.50, more likely to see that move up. Same look on the weekly. I mean, the 2-hour, and that move up to the 140s would then put you to the extremes on the HPDR to the upside, and then making it more likely you're going to reject that zone and then dump from there. Let's check. Full BTC. The Solana manlets are looking to be in for some pain. Monthly is currently flipped to the upside. Actually, no, it's freshly flipped down. It's ever so slightly below that moving average, with volatility now at extreme lows. And the monthly jewel is starting to lose the upwards curvature. This is likely going to shift neutral on this next monthly open, and that would be a rejection of the bearish control, getting out of the bearish control zone. with a close below the median, rejection of the median, and you would have a technical target of that bottom 38.2%, around 0.0011133 mouthful right there. 2-week currently positioned to the downside, entering into the bearish control zone with volatility expanding. 2-week jewels giving you a sell signal, and you got a rejection of your bottom 38.2%. From there, you would have a target of the 78.6% at about 001318. Likely get a little bit of bounce from that zone, but that bounce is likely going to fail and bring you down to that 0011 area. Weekly currently freshly positioned up, very close to exiting the bearish control zone. Is there any divergences here? There is some regular bullish divergence forming that will confirm with any close over 0015375, and that'll give you a move into the median / 100 EMA right around 0017s. There's some hidden bearish divergence also interesting that will confirm below 0014373. So you guys see on the weekly close, if you're going to confirm the bullish divergence or the hidden bearish divergence. And so, some points in the camp of the hidden bearish divergence is now you're getting a fresh sell signal on the jewel with the pink freshly crossing below the yellow. And this is a weekly. Keep in mind. So if you're getting that fresh signal on the weekly, you should see a nice move down. 5-day currently flipped up with volatility at almost 0%, extreme lows. The jewel is losing the buy signal, flipping neutral, and you're about to close below the median, which brings you down to that 0013 area, which is the bottom 38.2. 2 days currently about to flip back up with volatility approaching extreme lows. Also, 2 days reclaiming the bottom 38.2%. If you continue to hold over this area, it brings you into the median around that 1.4s area. Closing over the median brings you into the 1.5, 1.6s. Daily, same thing. It's 2-day momentum starting to flip back up, volatility contracting, but reclaiming the bottom 38.2%. As long as you close over that area, likely to see a little bit of a bounce. 4-hour now freshly flipping down with volatility at extreme lows, with price slightly rejecting the median. So if you're going to this is really going to be the decision point if you're going to go slightly higher into the 1.5s, or you're going to find a local top here and then continue to dump, is if you can close back over that 4-hour median. And that is at about 1.435. If you can close over that area, that takes you into the 1.5, high 1.5s, so maybe low 1.6. And you're likely going to find your local top in that zone. 2 hours also very close to flipping down, although it's still positioned up with volatility expanding. 2 hours also giving you the buy signal with the pink crossing above the yellow within the bearish control zone. Want to see it close over the 61.8% at 1.427-ish area, and that just take us up into the 1.5s. I'll go into the RSI. Mm. 124. So the RSI also has that possibility of hitting bullish divergence, but it will be taken out once you close below 124.57. And on the RSI, you'd have to close over $253.66 to confirm it. That would give you a target of the bullish control zone, which currently sits at about 315. Not even that much higher. You got some regular bullish divergence forming on the 2-week because you got this low here at 162, and here is a lower low at 130 with momentum making a higher low. But to confirm this divergence, you have to close over $211.30, and that gives you a move into about 248. 248, 250. Daily still got active hidden bearish divergence, although this kind of played out. We've already hit the critical zone. The next, if you were to tap the critical zone again, that would be at about $109, about 100 to 110. 4-hour currently has active multiple drives of bullish divergence. This will be active as long as you're closing over $117.58. Your next target is the bullish control zone around 138. That plays into that move into the 140s. The manlets are not able to keep it up. Quarterly momentum is freshly flipped down, rejecting the bullish control zone, and it will be flipped down as long as you're closing below 170.150. Monthly is currently freshly flipped down, rejecting getting out of the bearish control zone, and it's going to be flipped down as long as you're closing below 166.52. 2-week also flipped down with volatility expansion, and it's going to remain flipped down as long as you're closing below 209. Weekly is currently flipped down, but it will flip back up if you can close over 125.81. Interesting, just like Bitcoin, weekly is very close to flipping back up. 5 days already flipped back up, just like Bitcoin, and it's going to remain flipped up as long as you're closing over 128, which we are slightly below. And we do have a fresh overcross to the downside on the 5-day, just like Bitcoin too. Almost as if shitcoins follow Bitcoin. Amazing. 2-day currently has momentum flipped freshly to the upside, but we are currently below the pivot. We close tomorrow, and we will be flipped up as long as you're closing over $127.30. And you're starting to get volatility ticking up from many periods of 0%. Likely giving you that move into about that 140 zone, and then the real volatility expansion happens to the downside from there. Daily currently flipped down, but will flip back up today if you can close back over $125.50. You're slightly over that number now. And daily volatility is starting to expand from extreme lows, also leaning into the side of getting that move slightly up and then getting your rejection and then real volatility expansion down. 4-hour also flipped up with a derp of life, and it's going to remain flipped up as long as you're closing over $118.25. So high time frame right now are currently leaning towards the bearish side, right? Just like Bitcoin, although Solana isn't putting in the bearish engulfing dildo on the quarterly that Bitcoin is, and the bearish divergence, but the monthly is giving you very close to the same setup as Bitcoin, except Bitcoin has lower volatility, but the volatility is kind of built in on altcoins, so you're likely going to have more of a percentage move on Solana versus Bitcoin. And monthly momentum looks even worse on Solana, whereas you're getting your rejection of getting out of your bearish control zone, freshly flipping to the downside, all of your downside, plus multiple tries of bearish divergence, plus a nice head and shoulders right here, plus all of your medium-term time frames are currently flipped to the downside. Only your low-term time frames are now flipping back up with bullish divergence, tapping your extreme areas on the HPDR to the downside, making it probable that you're going to bounce from the zone to tap somewhere around that 140 to 150 zone. But you do have a high probability of a rejection from that zone, and then from there is where you'd likely get that volatility expansion to play out, and that would target somewhere between $100 to $110. And the invalidation right now would simply be getting back over about $211.30, and then maintaining that zone and consolidating there, and then that will take us up at not only to all-time highs, but take us into somewhere around $350 to $400 if you can close back over that zone. Very big if.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now with the Oracle. Ooh, that's all I'm going to say with the Oracle. Nasty rejection. Let's see what we were gauging last time we were looking at this. Let's go to the weekly. Let's show the rainbow chart off. So it looks like to us, we were gauging a move to that 174. Really rejecting that 223 was just a bad sign. You notice 223 was an easy expansion spot on Oracle. And again, you don't have a lot of price action data for this in this region, in the 300s to 280s, 250 region. But still, nevertheless, you had a wick high from this point. You came down, tested that 223, and then got expansion. Let's see, where did we gauge? Interesting. Okay, cool. So we were consolidating. This was important because in this time when you're breaking an all-time high, often a higher high will give you some kind of higher low and also a throwback. I mean, you've seen it here, you saw it here, and so forth. So, a move down made sense, but really price should have done this and it should have kept moving up. The opposite occurred, and on the weekly, you actually put in a massive weekly deviation. That was shown here once you lost that weekly 9. So already on the weekly posturing, that was bearish. but still, you were above 260, so there was some hopium. But then into that dump, really, it started once the weekly EMA9 got tested and rejected. Then you came down to that 223 region again, where that got lost, rejected down. 200 is a big spot, psychological number. You got an obvious bounce from that region, but again, weekly 9 retested and another smackdown. And so now where are you now? Well, you have a weekly lower low, and really we were gauging some kind of bounce off 174. But to me, it seems now that weekly EMA 100 is taking hold. And so now into this weekly close, you need to be watching that $200 region very carefully. 196 to 198 is a big spot for Oracle. If it can't actually get closures above that, be cautious of this actual weekly EMA 5 moving down towards that 198 into the next week or two. Where, mind you, if weekly 9's been rejecting this hard, you have to be very cautious of a weekly 5 being that first point of resistance. Now you do have the 9 and the 21 crossing. This is just playing into the idea that the weekly is bearish. You are pressing up there on volatility if it wants to load. You know, very close to an extreme read, but still, nevertheless, I mean, this could easily get you a contraction in volatility while this starts moving down. So just be very aware of this. If you're trying to be a bull now, it's a very easy spot. You just need to get back above 223 or reclaim the weekly 9. That'll be a really good sign that, yeah, you are going to reach that 260 and possibly higher. But until then, you need to be cautious of this breaking down. You've gotten the bounce off the weekly EMA 100. Does the bounce fizzle off around 198, 195, giving you that next major lower high? Okay, we'll go to the 2 week. 2 weeks closing today and actually confirming exactly what we mentioned. Here, you're just about to break down from $200. Got to see this wick high hold. If it doesn't, yeah, you're going to get a breakdown from 195, 198. And into the new 2 week candle, you easily could get a rally up to that bi-weekly 34 before dumping. Now, I don't trade off the 55. Technically, the target down from losing this EMA 34 is into 150. That'd be a pretty dramatic drop from this point. But still, the next target, and look at what occurred last time you lost that bi-weekly 34. You rallied up, rejected, and came very close to testing that bi-weekly EMA 100. You know, it's interesting. Actually, Oracle looks a lot like Bitcoin. Actually, some characteristics of Bitcoin. Why do I say that? Well, both at the weekly EMA 100, both in a tight range, both about to really give you a massive breakdown, pending the levels are taken out, and both are actually playing between the monthly 9 and the 21. Very interesting to see that. But again, you know, Bitcoin's very volatile, risky, and so is Oracle. So I guess that does make sense. Nothing to report here on the monthly. I mean, 12 days left to go. Really, you're just trying to get a close under 196. Quarterly is about to lose the 5, bouncing off the 9. So not very clear. But still, I mean, again, into January, if you do start just losing 198, could just be implications for potentially a breakdown, maybe filling that quarterly wick. And at minimum, testing the 9 then, sitting at, 178. So in my opinion now, Oracle's looking corrective, and it looks like you're just rallying up, testing that 198, 195 region. It's a range, 195. Let's get to the accurate numbers. It's 196.10 to 198. As long as you're under this region, though, you need to be cautious of that bi-weekly and weekly actually just retesting this region, producing a lower high and potentially rolling over into the next week. The weekly's closing, okay, impressive candle, producing maybe a hammerhead, maybe. You need to be watching 4 hours left to go, but as long as you're under 198, more of an implication to come down, test, maybe form some bullish price structure, and then break out. So even those bullish bulls are looking for something like this into next week. So watch very carefully, but under 198, you do have to be very bearish, specifically with that bi-weekly giving you a massive breakdown setup towards 150, or just that bi-weekly EMA 34.
Is there... What was the next one? Let me check. Oracle. You just did Oracle, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what's next.
Sorry, boys. Was running to my computer. All righty. All done. You guys get a break for a little bit. Thank you so much for covering up. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
You got you.
No, absolutely.
Oh, motherfucker. Holy fucking shit. That's the only way of describing this right now.
I had that early in the morning after my coffee.
Exactly. God damn. God damn. I put too much coffee in my coffee, probably. All right. All right. Let's hope there's no interruptions here. I'm going to do everything I can to avoid them. Here we go. Vale, pues vamos a ver los Bitcoin en este momento junto con todo lo demás. Discúlpenme, honestamente me estaba muriendo, no sé qué me pasó. Tuve que ir al baño para toda la gente que se preguntaba por qué vimos tanto, así que vamos a estar aquí un poco, ¿no? Con el buen tío Salo, voy a poner mi pantalla acá. Ok, ya puedo descansar un segundo. Vale. Dame un segundito, cierro estas chingaderas. Aquí estamos. Ok, estamos viendo Bitcoin. Vamos a empezar con Bitcoin. Después me voy a Solana y después hago Oracle. Y ahorita le damos para adelante. Antes que nada, muy buenos días a toda la gente que anda por acá en el chat de Elite Trading Academy. Gracias por estar acá, cabrones. Bienvenidos. Se despertaron temprano. Me da gusto verlos por acá. Un segundo, eventos en vivo. Un segundito. Perdón, estoy intentando recuperar mi vida en estos momentos. Gracias. Perfecto. Julio, acabamos de ver Sol. Parece que hay un hombro, cabeza, hombro que habían mencionado. Por cierto, después de casi un año en trading, es mi primer logro que ser rentable. Felicidades, cabrón. Tu primer mes siendo rentable y jugando esos rangos es como lo has logrado, bien hecho. Buenos días a todos. Ahora le vamos a dar a todo esto. Ahorita le damos a lo de la alerta de XRP, que sería después de Tesla la siguiente, mi estimado. De todo lo demás, pues está fácil. Vale. Acá tenemos que poner muchísima atención. Lo que está haciendo Bitcoin es más fácil de lo que pensamos. Ayer vi esto. Tenía yo esta línea justamente en los 85 que pusimos, no sé cuándo, honestamente, creo que fue la última sesión. Y esta línea, para mí, me ayuda a ver algo que podemos ver en nuestro rango de Bitcoin cuando me acerco. Perdón, lo tengo en la semanal, me acabo de dar cuenta. En la diaria. ¿Ok? Lo que está ocurriendo, y estamos jugando en este rango ha pagado bastante bien, lo pueden ver perfectamente. Lo que quiero que vean es en esta, cómo literalmente aguantó perfecto esto. Este punto, guárdenlo, pero de una vez. Y van a entender el por qué. Pueden ver este cierre por debajo. Acá hubo 1, 2 y luego se fue para arriba. Y luego tuviste este fake out. Y luego ninguno de estos cierres fue abajo de esa línea. ¿Lo pueden ver? Ok. La otra cosa que tenemos que tener en cuenta es, no hemos eliminado a todos los cortos de hasta los $100,000. Nos hemos llevado todos hasta los 94. La gente que viene de 100,000, de básicamente este breakdown, de hasta 107,000 para abajo, no nos los hemos llevado. Y pueden ver que no intenta llevarse a todos, ¿no? Vienes de este corto, que era de 107, aquí arriba 116. De 116 no se ha llevado a nadie. Y tampoco de 125, ¿no? Que fue 116 y después para abajo. Pero todavía esta ha sido la diferencia más grande. Les voy a enseñar a qué me refiero. De aquí abajo, aquí arriba, es un 8%. ¿Ok? De aquí abajo, perdón. De aquí abajo, aquí arriba, otro 8%. ¿Ok? Y ahora, de aquí abajo, aquí arriba, un 13%. Si fuéramos por la misma regla, deberíamos de encontrar los 102, 103 como el siguiente tope. Otra cosa que tienen que estar viendo y siguiendo con el precio de los Bitcoin en estos momentos es, no caímos de esta línea. Está poniendo a todo el mundo en modo bajista. ¿Y qué había dicho antes? ¿Qué fue lo que dijimos antes de irnos? ¿qué fue? El miércoles. Si no perdemos esta zona, vamos a rebotar acá, sencillamente. No tiene tanta gracia. Este es el gráfico que lo tenía perfectamente dibujado. El de CME. Lo pueden ver acá. No cerramos nada por debajo de eso. Y es justamente lo que decía. Lo que Bitcoin está haciendo en este momento, y fue la otra cosa que les dije también, son dos cosas. Uno, no se ha llevado este mínimo. Dos, no se ha llevado este mínimo. Y la mejor de todas, no se ha llevado este mínimo. ¿Y por qué digo eso? Porque les dije, Bitcoin está jugando para hacer pensar a todos los hermanos de David que esto ya rebotó y como hiciste bajos más altos, estás formando estructura alcista. Y ese no es el caso, mis estimados. Para nada. Lo que está haciendo es simplemente baitear a la gente. Y lo que tiene que buscar Bitcoin ahorita, o pronto, es el momento donde todo el mundo que era alcista, que últimamente se ha volvido bajista, los vuelvas una vez más alcista o los hagas caer en la trampa de bajista. Los subas hasta acá y ahí los rechaces. Eso es lo que está buscando Bitcoin en este divino momento. No les voy a mentir, tengo ganas de vomitar otra vez. No sé qué hacer. Denme un segundo, déjenme, hablo con estos perros que ahorita tendríamos que hacer. Me siento de la verga, no entiendo qué pedo, perdón. Bueno, sí entiendo, me comí una bolsa de papas anoche y no puede ser que eso me tenga así. Me pregunto, Farhano, Alex, can someone back me up, please? I want to fucking throw up again. This is not good for good old Alejandro today. If anyone can, you're the man. I see you. Anyone, thank you. So sorry. Thank you. Mind. Wow, holy shit. Tesla, please, and then Roblox. I'm so sorry.
Perfect. No worries. Hope you feel better.
Thank you. Fuck me.
Let me go to Tesla. Oh, actually, would you prefer Tesla or would you prefer Roblox?
I could do Tesla, but it doesn't matter to me.
I'll do Roblox.
Robert Locks.
Now entering Robert Locks. Primary shareholder, Robert Locks.
You're entering him.
No Diddy.
There you go.
You got to say that. So on the monthly on Robert Locks, the 38.2% has now caught back up with price action after being away from it for a good amount of time and getting a rejection from that 100% range on the HPDR. Now we are getting a move down to the bottom 38.2%. That levels at about $80 to $82, and lines up with the 21 EMA, which is also the last area that we had our last major low before we went to new all-time. Or was that new all-time highs? Yeah, I think it was slightly new all-time highs after getting that move off of our 21 EMA. And what also lines up currently is right now we are getting a move to the bottom 38.2%. This move to the 21 EMA was also at the 38.2%. Last time we got it moved down to the 21 EMA also was at the 38.2%. And then from there, we went to this next meme line, which was at the 100% range of the HPDR. So right now, the hopium for the bull case is that you continue to hold this 21 EMA and this 38.2%. Doesn't matter if we wick below it, you just want to hold it on a closing basis. And then from there, you should see a move back up to at least this top 38.2% at about $117. And closing back over this area is what takes you back to current all-time highs. And at this and right now, your current all-time highs only line up with 78.6%, which would be the target after closing over this 38.2%. So you likely get maybe a slight rejection off of the 78.6% on the first tap around down to this meme line. And then from here, I would expect expansion into some nice new all-time highs. Ideally, this 88.3%, which right now sits at about $169.69. A very nice number right there. We can find our generational top on Robert Locks at $169.69 and just walk away and call it a day. Momentum on the monthly is currently positioned to the downside, very close to entering into the bearish control zone, with volatility approaching extreme lows, but not quite there just yet, with the jewel giving us the continuation of the sell signal. Now, if you notice, we have taken out every one of our one of these previous lows on momentum, giving us now it's lower than this one. No, not quite. So giving us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drives of hidden bullish divergence currently possible, because momentum is currently making a higher low from this last price is making a higher low from this last low here, and this low is at about $58.29. So we're currently at $82. Right now, the confirmation for this divergence will be getting a close back over this high here. It's going to be a little difficult to do. That level right now is at about $142. But on this next open, your confirmation is going to be $99.98. So the psychological $100 level. Once you close back over on this next month over the $100 level, that will confirm the hidden bullish divergence, and that'll give you a target of your current all-time highs. 2 week. 2 week currently also positioned to the downside with volatility expanding. 2 week is playing out the God mode sell signal, but you are approaching extreme areas to the downside now on the HPDR. Likely somewhere around that $80 to $75 area to tap this 55 EMA, and from this zone you should see a bounce. Whether you're going to be bullish or bearish, likely going to see a bounce. To maintain bullishness from this bounce and turn it into a reversal, you would have to see a close back over about $134.67, and that takes you back up to about you up to about $170. So nice all-time highs. Well, ideally that 169.69 number. Weekly currently starting to flip back up on momentum with volatility starting to go into a contraction phase. Right now, you're bouncing off the 78.6%, which is your target after closing below the 38.2%. So maybe you see a slight wick below to tag this 100 EMA around $78, maybe $75, but you want to see closures over the 78.6%, and that takes you back up to this bottom 38.2% around $100. Close below the 78.6%, you're going to continue dumping to somewhere around 88.3% at $75, and then the next level is going to be about $50, which is the 200 SMA. 5 days, well, starting to flip back up a momentum with volatility going into a contraction phase. 5 days still playing out the sell signal on the jewel, and you are now approaching the 78.6%, which lines up with the 100 EMA sitting around that same $75 to $80 zone. I don't know why I'm speaking with my hands when no one can see me. I'm retard. On 2 day we got momentum starting. On a 2 day week. Yeah, just a little bit of autism.
You're in the chart.
Muy poquito autism. So on the 2 day, we were also getting momentum flipping to the downside with volatility going into an expansion phase, and volatility is now expanding from extreme lows, and the 2 day is now flashing a fresh sell signal on the jewel. You know, we got to close below the 38.2%, back test of that 38.2%, and just steady rejections. And that takes us down to somewhere around our 200 SMA, which lines up with our $75 figure. Robert Locks is stealing all your coins or all your shares. Don't sell. Don't panic. Don't let Robert Locks take your shares. Daily is starting to get pretty close to flipping back up, approaching the moving average. Let's zoom in a little bit, see if we made a higher low. We didn't make a higher low from this low here. Let's see what the price is. And we made a lower long price, giving us some possible hidden regular bullish divergence. But you will need a close over about $89.19 to confirm it. And on confirmation, it gives you a target up to somewhere around this 200 SMA, approaching that $100 zone, psychological $100. Let's look at the jewel. Jewel's giving you currently has active a buy signal with the pink crossing above the yellow, but this looks like it's going to invalidate very soon and flip into a sell signal. 4 hour also flipped up with volatility currently very close to going into an expansion phase. 4 hour has a fresh sell signal with the pink crossing below the yellow while this is happening in the bearish control zone, so it's not going to be as effective, but you are currently getting a breakdown in rejections of your 38.2%. What you want to see right now to see extended bounce to that $100 figure is close back over this 38.2%, about $85, and that takes you up to about $90, and then getting a close over 90 is what takes you to about 100 to 105. And you currently do have a little bit of a gap ski here at like $93. 2 hour also flipping back up. Volatility is going into a contraction phase. You just want to see a close back over $84, and that takes you somewhere around the 90s. Let's check the RSI. Oh, I don't even have to look it up. It's right there. I got a nice little United States pattern right over here. Monthly, nothing quite. Probably gonna see a nice little dump on everything whenever the conflict starts with Venezuela. But wars are usually bullish, so maybe a couple of months after there we get a nice bearish retest. And that would be, I assume, Bitcoin bouncing from like 66K to 69K, upwards to maybe 80, 85, possibly even back up to 90. But high probability at that point gonna fail, and then you can see the 40s. And I, for one, will not be. Oh, actually, I'm gonna be petty as hell because I've had people give me lols for even saying 60, 69K. We're not gonna stop at 69K, fellas. Daily currently has active multiple drives of hitting bearish divergence. This will be active as long as you're closing below $99. Your next target is the critical zone, which currently sits at about 71. Lines up at that $75 area. Is there another drive currently possible? There is indeed, and that will confirm with any close below $86.15, which we are below. Nothing there. All right, let's check the momentum. Quarterly still positioned to the upside. It's going to remain flipped up as long as you're closing over $46. And volatility is now contracting from a double extreme at 100%. Monthly is currently positioned to the downside, losing the critical zone with volatility contracting, and it's going to remain flipped down as long as you're closing below $143. Your last major high or low is at $58.29, which is, I believe, our quarterly pivot right around that zone. Actually, it's lower than that. So even coming down to that last major low would still keep quarterly momentum up.
Sir, I'm back for a second. Hopefully, just for good. But I gotta say something because I heard your comment about the war with Venezuela.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say the following. Number one, you know how in social media or in Hollywood, actors that are on a different tier with others don't get together? Like literally, I have friends that have a good amount of followers that will not get together with people that have less than 400,000 followers. It's that pathetic, right? Like there's actors like Tom Cruise that will never be seen with low-level actors, right? There's that.
Little pretentious fucks.
But that's how the world works, right? Like everyone's a pretentious fuck, and we all got to pretend we're better than everyone else. So we got to keep our image clean and all that stuff. Now, the person that has less followers might have might be richer, might have other stuff that the other person with more followers has, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is that how people are going to look at me, right? So tell me how the fuck in the world is the United States, the person with the most followers on earth, gonna go and get into a fight with someone that just started out on MySpace, which is Venezuela? Do you understand how bad that would look? Like in my view, this is impossible. How can the United States go and relate itself to a war directly? Like we're not taking credit directly for Ukraine and Russia. We don't even want to do that. We don't want to take direct credit over killing all those fucking disgusting Palestinians, right? Like we don't care. We're just giving them all the money so they can kill them. We're not even taking credit, but we're gonna go and fucking attack Venezuela. Now, I'm not saying they won't. I'm not saying they will. It's just like such a like. Again, it's like Jake Paul fighting someone that just opened an Instagram account 2 weeks ago that has 200 followers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you not look at it that way? Like Venezuela,
Yeah, but
Venezuela, oil.
also they did it to Iraq, and that was a pretty tiny country, and Afghanistan.
No, 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 no. Iraq is the bedrock. It's where the fucking humanity came from, dude. Iraq has the most gold. They had the most influence because of the area where they are, all over that area and region. And that's why we have Israel right there as a remote little location for us, right? Like, that's important. We own Venezuela, dude. We own all the countries in Latin America already. That's why it makes no sense whatsoever, in my view. Like, yeah, do you not remember the contrast that we gave him all the weapons, and then people found out, and they were like, "Oh my God, the U.S. is arming these fucking South American idiots." Do you remember that from back in the day? This is a history from history lesson. So once again, we have already proof that the United States is the one feeding them with all the stuff to have them have the government that they have right now, because that's in our interest. Now, can we go take over, someone kill them, blah, blah, blah? Yeah, but a war with Venezuela, dude, do you know how pathetic we'll look? If I'm the head of relations, let's say the head of marketing of the United States War Department, I'd be like, no, guys, no. Let's attack Canada. Come on.
They should.
They got oil, and they speak English, and it's a first world country, like maybe a second. Let's go get them. There's a lot of trans out there. Let's go get them. You know what I mean? Not because of the trans, but that shows you that you're already one of those countries. Or let's fucking join you, Russia, and attack Europe. Like, that's a cool war the United States can be proud of, right? If I'm the person in charge of their social media accounts. But Venezuela, dude, one more time, let me just say that.
But what if they don't call it a war? What if they call it a special military operation?
Oh, they do that all the time, and they can do that, right? Like, there's a reason why they're telling all of you that, just think about it, that they're attacking these little boats. They've been doing it all the time, right? There's a reason why they're bringing up the Maduro regime right now. He's been there forever. There's a reason why when Trump was going to give his announcement, they told everyone that he was going to be about the war with Venezuela. Normally, when something like that happens, they don't tell you. It just happens.
Yeah, and then they say it after.
Yeah, this is very gay, if I may say so myself. Like, honestly. And also, how bullish could it be, war with Venezuela? At least Russia and Ukraine, we literally had to give Ukraine $2 quadrillion because they're fighting one of the biggest armies in the world. Venezuela, dude. What the like? You drop a little fucking a firework and everyone dies. Like, what? Like, what is this war? This would be a war for ants.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be like what was happening with Iran, where people were like, "Oh, we're gonna go to war with Iran," and then just dropped a couple bombs, and Iran didn't really do anything in response.
That's about it. Like, that's you know what? That's the best scenario for this war to be like a war. That would be an extreme case. What are you gonna do with Venezuela? Get the fuck out of here. Those people are starving to death. No. This is ridiculous. We can't get it. Listen, guys, if anyone that works at the DOJ, that works in the military, that works at the CIA, that works as a Navy SEAL and he's listening to this, talk to your superior and tell them this war is just not what we need right now as far as social media status goes. That's the most important thing, please. No. And now I'm sorry, I'm going to proceed to go back and die. I'm glad that I used this time to tell you this. I'm sorry.
Have a nice poop if that's what you're going to do. All right, so I will start with, get to, let's do the quarterly again. So quarterly is currently still flipped up with volatility now contracting from that double extreme, and we will be flipped up as long as we're closing over 40. Actually, we will flip back up as as long as we're closing over $46. It shows it to the upside because we are significantly over $46. Monthly is currently flipped down, with the momentum now losing the critical zone, and it's going to be flipped down as long as you're closing below $142.76. But you are currently forming hidden bullish divergence because you have taken out the previous low, but you are making a higher low with price at about $82, and the previous low is at $58.29. You're projected on this next open to be at the edge of the bullish control zone, and in this area, the pivot is likely going to drop significantly, and then giving you possibility for putting in that hidden bullish, or actually making it a lot easier to confirm that hidden bullish divergence. And that's when you're likely going to retest your current all-time highs, maybe get some consolidation there, and then break into new all-time highs. And you are on the monthly, it makes it a lot easier to see this beautiful United States pattern you got right here. You got your California right over here. You got actually California would be right over here. This is more so like near Canada, maybe Alaska. You could say, even though Alaska is not connected to America, the geography is not important here. You got your Texas right over here. You got your Florida. You got your New York, and then this would be the line. And uh, that would also go along with your current hidden bullish divergence and taking you upwards to some nice new all-time highs. Let's go to the 2-week. 2-week currently is flipped down with volatility freshly going into an expansion phase, and you will be flipped down as long as you're closing below $136.12. Looks like you're going to be tagging your 100 EMA, which is the last zone that you tapped before you went to your current all-time highs. Now 100 currently sits at a nice number of about $69. It's a perfect zone for our next major low. Weekly is currently also flipped to the downside with volatility expanding from extreme lows, and it's going to be flipped down as long as you're closing below $88.50. 5 days currently also flipped down, and it's going to remain down as long as you're closing below $87. 2 days also freshly flipped down with volatility now expanding, and it's going to remain flipped down as long as you're closing below $86.21. And daily is also flipped down, and it's going to remain down as long as you're closing below $86.38 with volatility expanding. And 4 hours now very close to flipping back up, and it will flip back up if you close over about $83, $82.80. What's that zone? 86 and 90. All right. 2 hours already flipped up with volatility still expanding, and it's going to remain flipped up as long as you're closing over $82. And hourly is also flipped up, and it's going to remain flipped up as long as you're closing over 82.50. Go back up now. The high time frames do still remain bullish despite momentum being flipped down. What's really fueling my bias is that the quarterly, although remaining flipped down, is showing some, upwards curvature because we are so far above that pivot and be closing 12 days. So it's a little unlikely we're going to drop like $36 in the next 12 days to flip this momentum back down. And we are forming a very nice United States pattern as well. Plus, we're approaching our 90 EMA on the quarterly, which has been the zone that we've bottomed at every single one of these times before we went to our new to our current all-time highs, and that currently sits right around that somewhere between 65 to $75 area that we've been looking at over all of these previous setups. Monthly is currently now forming hidden bullish divergence, approaching very significant areas of support. Plus, that hidden bullish divergence is going to be a possibility is going to be alive for it as long as you're closing over about $58, which we can drop like $24 and still be over that number. 2-week is currently approaching the bearish control zone, which in that zone, the pivot is likely going to drop. Weekly is already very close to flipping back up. 5 days, very close to flipping back up. On the very low time frames, you do have momentum freshly flipping to the downside, so telling you you're likely going to go a little bit lower on this move down, which takes you to that $75 to $65 area. But in that zone, you have a very high probability for a bounce, and based on the high time frames, I do think that's going to be where you find your reversal. And the confirmation for that reversal is going to be getting the daily close back over about 108, say $108.50. And at that point, you're going to confirm multiple drives of hidden bullish divergence in your higher time frames, and that'll take you back up to your current all-time highs. But at that point, your HPDR ranges will have stepped up, and that's going to allow you to go to some nice new all-time highs, and wherever your 78.6% to the 88.3% is at that point is going to be what your target is. I think you muted. El mutador. Elevator music. Do, 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 do.
Oh, is
And
this
I'll throw.
screen? I'm confused. Tesla. Oh my gosh. My whole thing was glitching, my bad. There we go. You hear me fine?
Yeah, you saved everyone from the uncle joke.
Oh. Yeah. There's 7 technical difficulties here. No worries. Let's see. Often some banger trades are to be produced. Markets don't want us to see it. Let's see what's going on Tesla. Now, the weekly is very important for Tesla because, well, you're getting a major close here. Now, remember, the perspective has been pretty easy on Tesla. It's simply, let's see if that weekly median actually gets reclaimed. Now, we are, I will say, above the weekly median, but markets are looking a little heavy going into the close. We do want to be watching carefully. And when I say heavy, I'm really gauging Bitcoin. Now, the flip side is really Bitcoin's been doing its own thing versus risk on the stock market. But nevertheless, specifically with ES1's price action as well, want to be kind of cautious here going into the weekly close. Right on that weekly median has been just the focal point of the analysis all week. And so now we're approaching the close into today. Really, if you're trying to be a bull, same criteria. Can we get back above November 3rd's wick high, that weekly wick high that rejected? Can we do that? And then also, can we get back above the weekly median? Luckily for both of us, luckily for us, both of them are right in that region. If you can sustain closures above the weekly median, what we've seen with Tesla is that can be very good price action development. You can often get expansion moves at minimum to the top side 38.2% channel. Where is that currently sitting? Well, that's at $523. There's your all-time high for Tesla in that $500 region, something that really people have been wanting a $500 Tesla. We did make a new high though this week. And last analysis I did, I really didn't even catch that. In my opinion, it was kind of like a cheeky high, very fast, and then sold off. But still, nevertheless, an all-time high. So GG on bulls there. But at this point now, we want to just be watching very carefully price development. When we're often in a higher high break, it's very hard to make a case, specifically on like a weekly higher high, to actually then be getting expansion up before some kind of move or higher low. This just gives bulls more price structure to actually move up. So into next week, in my opinion, you should be seeing 474 actually get sustained closures above. Into next week, if you just see consolidation around 474, that'll be the first big sign that, yeah, you are going to start expanding, and you very easily could just make like a little bull flag here. But that would mean you need a little bit of consolidation. The weekly, very interesting because the volatility setup we've been looking at really didn't budge on this all-time high move. It's a very interesting thing to note when you've just made a new macro high, but you have this massive weekly volatility setup massive, I will say. I mean, you've only had a few of these in Tesla's history. Let's observe. This is when BBWP goes under 15%, but then actually starts going past 15%, reaching actually 0% volatility. There you get that cyan blue color read. And so you can see, if you just like look at Tesla, we only had a few of these setups. We'll just map them out real fast. Here is 1, 2, and on this one here is basically not a failed one. I won't call it a failed, but it just didn't fire off to the full length, only reaching right around 46%. And then lastly, here was another one, the first one ever actually on Tesla in 2018. And this was a pretty impressive one, reaching around 80%. Now, oh wait, let me fix this. There we go. Now, price action, let's just observe kind of what's been the flavor with these weekly volatility setups. So the first one ever firing off was pretty easy. I mean, once you got back of the weekly EMA 100, you held that as support before expanding up. Now, the move was pretty ginormous back in 2016, my apologies. Here, so yeah, towards the end. So yeah, 2017. Let's measure that from this point. It's about a 35% move on this weekly volatility setup. And mind you, look at the characteristics of this, just pretty much went straight up. Let's see if the HBDR even has anything here. And you can see that you really did start to move up once that weekly median was actually reclaimed on that weekly, right? Weekly median was rejecting you, staying under. Once Tesla actually got back above the weekly median, actually this is when it started to move up. But again, volatility really started to confirm once that weekly EMA 100 was reclaimed. So we'll keep going. Here was that failed one. And again, not failed, but just didn't reach the full length where I'd want to see on volatility with a setup with 4 sessions at 0%. Let's measure this out. So you started to move down, and then on this consolidation, it actually started to fire off to the upside. It's about a 21% move, so still over 20%. And let's observe here, what did the HBDR say? So actually, you were making moves to the weekly median, even got closures above, but you were like in this region here. Let me measure this out one more time. Here, up. So actually, the measured move is about 16%. I said 21, 16%. And all this really did was take you up to the top side, 38.2%. You then came in for the weekly median retest, but it just wasn't sustaining closures above or breaking out. Okay, and then here was another one. Interesting that you've seen all these really fire off to the upside. Here's the one we just looked at. So then we can go where we're currently at. Let's just kind of see. Anytime. Where is the candles? Oh, here it is. Perfect. All right. So very close to reclaiming that weekly median. You see volatility is approaching the moving average, not firing off. So with this perspective here, absolutely consolidation would make sense. It's not even yet primed to go up. You've seen expansions once you get closures above the weekly median. You've seen minimum moves to the top side, 38.2%. So if you are trying to be a bull here, it's just, in my opinion, more logical to wait for the weekly close. This is still what I've been saying all week. Simply while bears are just looking at this 465 to become loss. Getting back under 465 will give you a move down to the 440. Or if that weekly 9 doesn't hold, that's your first major sign that, yeah, perhaps you're going to break down. Confirmation of a breakdown is simply rejecting 415 on a daily close. 415 was a massive zone for Tesla. If you lost 415, you dramatically went down. You've also never had a weekly volatility setup fire off to the downside. So it's very interesting to see this populating, brewing while Tesla is hitting an all-time high. But still, just because it's never fired off to the downside doesn't mean it cannot. And really, for me, the trade will start on the weekly. So that's kind of why I've been looking at that every time we've gone on the Tesla. We can start really seeing here bi-weekly, tried to break out, is slightly rejecting the top side, 38.2%. gearing up for perhaps a move into next week, giving you a retest. You can see you easily can retest 465 on that bi-weekly candle. But preferred, like I mentioned, just simply flipping this wick high rejection into support, sustaining close above 474 before moving up. Bulls have options if they can just get this close today above 474. Go to the monthly here. Monthly, just similar to the bi-weekly, trying to break out. Slight rejection in this region. Confluence of that 473 being a big zone simply because you have that monthly topside 38.2% breakout here. So, next week, next 2 weeks are going to be pretty important for Tesla. Very simply, just want to see this flip into a wick. Meaning, again, just get back under 465, really. That'll be a good spot if you're trying to be bearish. 465 is a big zone. That'll be a big spot. If you lose that confluence of perhaps that 415 retest. Now, I'm very curious to see where this will all shift next month. So we'll just keep in the back of our minds this bi-monthly. Looking good. It is looking good, but still just want to see where this will actually close. You've already gotten that high. You're in that higher high posturing in 12 days, very long time, really. You could easily see this start selling off, something looking so massively bullish before it closed. Always keeps me a little cautious, especially 12 days and something like a massive bi-monthly. Quarterly, same thing. 6 month, very interesting. Let's clean this up. So 6 months different. You'd like to see 489 get a close above. But still, I mean, that's why we'll just use the lower time frames. Watch 465. 6 month is good. Not really getting much off of it other than just good. It's good. I mean, you got that higher high, higher low. But again, that means that if this is the higher low, if really bulls wanted to, they could technically take this all the way back down to here. I mean, if they wanted to, and it still would be a higher low. Look at what occurred here. You came, I guess you were, okay, you had your higher high. So you were in a trend shift. You can make massive moves on the 6 month, but you also can sell off pretty hard. Bullish price structure breakout. Price structure breakout. So what you've noticed is really since bulls put this in an uptrend, you have had higher highs, but then you've also had some pretty dramatic dumps leading to higher lows. So just be mindful that if you are bullish on Tesla, your line in the sand now is just 215. You really just don't want to see it take out these lows here. You don't need to be looking at this anymore. You can now look at this one right here. But still, I mean, it just makes it very tricky when that weekly volatility is not firing off. You've already made a high, and you've already seen here, just based on price action at the beginning of the year, you absolutely can make higher lows once you actually close in a higher high. So just something, to note on that. But nevertheless, we'll stick to the levels. On the weekly, it's all about 473. So let's see if today actually gives us that. Bears simply just want to see a rejection, loss of 465, leading to a breakdown towards 440 into next week. If you do end up closing about 473, that'll be the first good sign that, okay, this is going to consolidate. Consolidations like this often lead to breakouts. So I'll look at the daily now. I've been focused on the higher time frame. Perhaps that daily is trying to do that consolidation that we want on the weekly. This is the first point of interest you'll want to see. Does the daily actually hold 473? And well, so far it is. This is a pretty dramatic dump. So now you have a pretty easy area where, as a bull, you just need to take this out, because as bears, you're going to be using this high, this massive shooting star as your stop loss if you're shorting in this region. 489 is a big spot. You're basically ranging. The range is 473 to 489. So until one of these breaks, you could just do this. And what will this end up forming? Well, potentially a bull flag, which is what we want, but dependent on this close today. So watch very carefully. This isn't the worst sign. If you're a bull, this is what you want. Bears simply just want that shooting star into essentially Wednesday to not get taken out. A loss of that 465 on the daily now gives us confluence. We don't even need to wait on the weekly. Once you lose this daily 9, very good implications that you're going to start moving down towards the next objective. For me, that's 440 to 445. We were saying on a weekly we could do it. Yeah, that's true. But if this daily starts rolling over, losing this daily 9 today, that'll be your first big sign as a bear that this may start rejecting. But still right now in favor of bulls. So watch the weekly. It's all going to come down to the weekly today. That's all I have. Tessie.
Thank you. Boys, I'm fucking dying. I think I'm going to have to call it a day. I am so sorry. I have no idea what the fuck is going on. It's just mostly the nausea that's killing me.
No, absolutely.
No worries, no worries.
That sucks.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, I'll keep everyone posted. Is there anything you'd like to say before we abruptly end this? And I'm sorry again.
Nothing. Just watch the Discord. I'll update the Discord.
Sounds good. There should be some juicy trades today. Some fuckery is going to happen. All righty. Well, thank you so much, boys.
Yeah.
Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Are you nauseous? If you are, you should consider some Zofran. It's like magic for nausea.
Yeah. I'm going to try everything right now because I haven't felt this shit in I don't know how long. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oigan, jefazos, me estoy muriendo, honestamente, los voy a dejar acá. Les voy a hacer un en vivo a todos los de Elite Trading Academy mañana con las preguntas que me dejaron acá. Fuera de eso, perdónenme, no sé qué pedo, me siento, algo tiene que estar mal de la comida que comí. Les mando un abrazo, cuídense mucho y gracias, perdón.